Welcome to part 1 of Nuclear Dragon. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments rather than just disliking the video. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. I also want to apologize for the recent disruption in our update schedule due to technical difficulties. I'm happy to say everything's back to normal now, and we're back on track. Enjoy the content.
Introduction. In a world where ancient dragons hide in plain sight, young Shillong discovers a shocking truth. His mother, who appears as a stunning elf, is actually a 200-year-old silver dragon. With this revelation, Shillong is determined to reshape the universe, replacing the chaos of war with the power of entertainment and an era of nuclear peace. But those who cling to the ways of violence will soon learn the meaning of his fiery resolve. As he unleashes his fearsome nuclear breath upon the war-mongering nations, Shillong embarks on a mission to rid the cosmos of its worst habit, war. Part 1. Chapter 1. In the endless blue sea, on a small island full of wild atmosphere. In a cave as vast as a palace, piles of silver, gold, jewelry, and other treasures glittered, exuding a charming light. On top of this pile of treasure, there are 4 giant oval eggs. There are silver scales sticking on the shells of these giant eggs, exuding a halo under the magic light at the top of the cave. Click, crack, crack, a sound rang from one of the eggs, as both the silver scales and the eggshell broke at the same time. A small head suddenly protruded from the egg, and before it even looked around, it felt extreme hunger from its stomach. Regardless of other things, the little creature broke through its giant egg, and in accordance with its body's instinct, it started devouring the eggshells lying on the ground. Click, crack. It wasn't until it completely ate the eggshells that it was freed from instinctive hunger and started thinking about a certain problem. Who am I? I remember that my name is Chun Fei, a human from the blue planet. 24 years old, no girlfriend, ordinary family conditions. I had no great ideal in life. I just wanted to marry an ordinary girl, have a few children, then live a normal life. Wrong. My name is Shillong Soderberg from the Soderberg family. I am a silver dragon. What's silver dragon? I am obviously a human being. Chun Fei felt a little dizzy. It took him a while to straighten his situation. First of all, I am indeed Chun Fei, a 24-year-old single man from the blue planet, but I somewhat traveled to another world and reincarnated into a silver dragon. Becoming a silver dragon? This is quite good. Now that I traveled to another world, this actually countless times better than becoming a nameless pawn. But how did I cross? I don't remember encountering any strange things or dying. The last thing I remember is going to sleep at 11 p.m., but I was thrown in such a strange situation as soon as I woke up. My parents are still at home. Chun Fei was a little depressed. He had a father and a mother, far from the typical starting point of an orphan protagonist. Why would he cross to another world? Why was he chosen? I can't figure this out. Let's take a look at the surrounding situation for now. Chun Fei thought internally, then finally started to look around. Okay, glittery and shiny things everywhere. The surrounding walls are inlaid with various jewels and painted with beautiful-looking murals. The crystal chandeliers hanging on the ceiling are very beautiful, and the gold and silver lying everywhere on the ground are very attractive. The 3 silver giant eggs next to him also add to the artistic feeling of the room. Wait for a second. They don't seem to be there just for the artistic atmosphere. Gulp! Chun Fei swallowed his saliva. He felt a little hungry again, and the eggs in front of him looked very appetizing. No, these should be my own brothers and sisters. I can't eat them. Chun Fei quickly stopped his dangerous thoughts. Click, click, crack. The sound of cracking sounded from an egg next to him, followed by it quickly breaking. The next moment, a small silver-white creature drilled through the broken eggshell. After this little thing broke from its egg, the first thing it did was to eat its eggshell. Chun Fei silently looked at the little creature. Its body is silvery white, with 4 limbs and a tail that is as long as the rest of its body. There are short spikes extending from its spine from the top of its head to the end of its tail. Its little wings are tucked behind. There are no pupils in its eyes, making them look just like a crystal ball. Both its body and scales look very metallic. Is this a silver dragon? Do I look the same as this little thing now? Chun Fei thought internally. Click, click, crack. Cracking noises sounded from the last 2 eggs, after which 2 more little dragon-like creatures broke out. Repeating the same process, they also started eating their eggshells. Chun Fei looked at these 2 little creatures, somewhat stunned. Different. These 2 dragon-like creatures are different from the previous one. They have no spikes extending from their spine and tail. Their tail is very short, and they have no wings. Why is the gap so big? Which one do I look similar to? Is it the former or the latter? Chun Fei hopes that he is the former. The latter too looks like an undeveloped deformity. I must confirm it. Chun Fei glanced at his forelegs. Black! What the fuck? Why am I so black? No matter how poorly developed the other dragons are, they are all silver. How did I become like this? Actually black. Am I not the same species as them? Impossible. The inheritance memory in my mind clearly tells me that I'm a silver dragon, whose name is Shillong Soderbergh. Why is it so? Chun Fei, or Shillong, had no clue of what's going on. He could only examine himself to try and get more clues. Trying his best to focus his energy on his upper forelimbs, he felt an extra limb connected to his thick arms. These should be his wings. That's great. A dragon without wings isn't a dragon. Armin Soderbergh, a childish sound rang in Shillong's ear. It's the silver dragon that broke through his egg after him, the well-developed one. This is dragon language. It's completely different from any blue planet language, but Shillong still understood it. This is the silver dragon's true name. To be more precise, it's an abbreviation of it. Armin Soderbergh. Armin Soderbergh. This little silver dragon kept saying his name loudly. Thinking that it was introducing itself, Shillong also yelled his name out loud. Shillong Soderbergh. When the small silver dragon heard this, he immediately turned his head to Shillong and continued to say, Armin Soderbergh. Armin Soderbergh. Hello, Armin Soderbergh. I am Shillong Soderbergh. Armin Soderbergh. Is there no way to communicate? Shillong gave up his intention to communicate and turned his attention to the other two small malformed dragons. The two little silver dragons are still eating, so Shillong watched quietly until they finished. Afterward, instead of yelling their name like Armin Soderbergh before, they screamed instead. Shillong felt hungry again. He looked around at his surroundings, but there was nothing to eat. What to do? Boom! Along with a loud colliding sound, Shillong felt the entire palace-like cave shake. Bang! 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 It sounded like a giant's footsteps, and this sound continued to approach, until a giant monster appeared in Shillong's vision. This is really a scary monster. Oh, it's a giant dragon, an extremely huge silver dragon. It looks like the enlarged version of Armin, apart from very slight differences. The only thing that he felt different is that its scales looked shinier and more vivid, and of course firmer. The spikes on its back and tail are also sharper. It continued dragging its long tail as it moved forward. Its head almost reached the ceiling of the giant cave. The hill of treasures could barely reach its neck. Despite its huge size, Shillong felt an aura of elegance from its body somehow. Its giant forelimbs carried a beast that had been skinned and cleaned. Shillong didn't know what type of beast it was, but it's about 2 to 3 times the size of his brother Armin. The beast is wrapped in a thin layer of ice, to keep it from deteriorating probably. This dragon seems to be in a good mood. Shillong didn't know why he could feel this huge dragon's mood from looking at its face. However, in the next moment, the happy expression on the huge dragon solidified, replaced with a look of focus and surprise. Part 1. Chapter 2. Why is there a little black dragon amongst my children? The huge silver dragon asked with a confused look on her face. The voice of the huge silver dragon is that of a young woman, which sounds very pleasing to the ears. If he hadn't seen her true body, Shillong would have thought that this voice belongs to a girl in her 20s. The huge silver dragon rubbed her eyes with her claws. Oh, this dragon is indeed black. The giant silver dragon turned her head, scanned the entire cave, but didn't find any other living creature. It's exactly 4 children, but why did I give birth to a little black dragon? It doesn't make sense. Both I and his father are authentic silver dragons. Is this a mutation? But even if he mutated, the difference shouldn't be this big. Forget it. It doesn't matter. Little ones. What are your names? Armin Soderbergh, Shillong Soderbergh. Ho ho ho. 2 real dragons hatched out of 4 eggs. I really am the god, chosen female dragon amongst all silver dragons. Hearing 2 hatchling dragons pronouncing their true names, the adult silver dragon said with pride. However, her mood suddenly went down. Oh, but there are still 2 wyverns. They are so pitiful. They haven't inherited the blood of a real dragon. These 2 babies with low intelligence, mom will raise you until you're a little bigger, then send you away. The race of true dragons is always so cruel. When they are in heat, they mate, then separate after the female lay eggs. From these eggs, there is only a very small probability that a real dragon will hatch. However, there is a much higher probability for wyverns with no inherited knowledge, no intelligence, and deformed appearance to be born. The probability of hatching a wyvern is definitely over 70%. For this reason, even if a female true dragon can lay a few eggs after each mating sessions, the number of true dragons is still extremely few compared to other races. There is one more reason why the birth of a true dragon is so difficult. It's because they are too strong. Hence, every time a true dragon produces, there isn't a high chance of a true dragon being born. It's very difficult for a true dragon to conceive. A true dragon can only conceive 3 times in its lifetime. Perhaps it is due to the law of this world. It's always difficult for powerful creatures to breed offspring. Wyverns are creatures that aren't recognized by true dragons, mostly because their wisdom is as low as wild beasts, so most dragons hate to be associated with them. Almost all true dragons look down on wyverns and don't consider them as the same species, if they are born from them. It is precisely because of this that wyverns will immediately be driven out of the nest as soon as they are born, resulting in a very small number of them surviving until adulthood. Among all true dragons, only the Metal Dragon clan, with good nature, does nurture wyverns until adolescence before releasing them into the wild. As for the evil Five-Color Dragon clan, they will abandon their offspring as soon as they discover that they are wyverns, with the violent ones amongst them even directly killing them. My precious babies, eat this prey and get stronger quickly. The huge silver dragon carefully put the frozen beast meat in front of the 4 little dragons. The 4 small dragons followed their hunger instinct and started to eat. The adult silver dragon laid down next to the 4 little dragons. After watching them quietly for a while, she stretched out her scaly hands and gently stroked the 2 wyverns with a look of pity on her face. The 2 small wyverns were upset at being disturbed while eating at first, but after feeling blood bonding between them and the big dragon along with that familiar breath, they let out some cute cries. The eyes of the adult silver dragon shifted to the side, looking at Armin with a look full of joy. This is her offspring. He is a true dragon that has completely inherited the noble silver dragon bloodline of his parents. There is no doubt that this is her favorite one among her 4 children. As for Shillong, this mutated black metal dragon is indeed very special. The silver dragon mother can't imagine how she and her mate gave birth to him. Did something wrong happen during the mating or the incubation process? Taking a closer look at this hatchling dragon, the difference between him and other hatchling true dragons is extremely huge. His tender scales are extremely dark. Furthermore, there are tiny gaps between each scale. These gaps are connected together from a deeper level. Occasionally, golden light flashes through these gaps. The silver dragon mother felt a strange aura from this mutant dragon. Although very weak, it is full of evil, destruction, death, decay, dryness, and extremely high heat. Is this really my child? Both I and my husband are obviously purebred silver dragons. We are all ice attributes dragons. How could such a child be born from us? Should I throw him away? This idea suddenly emerged in her mind, but her inner kindness couldn't allow her to do that. I will raise him like my other children. If the situation changed later on, then I will deal with it at that time. How could I casually throw away such a small child that doesn't know the difference between good and evil? If I did so, won't I be no different from those evil and disgusting 5-color dragons? Besides, the silver dragon mother could still feel her own blood flowing through the veins of this little black dragon. So she rejected her evil thoughts. She continued watching the 4 small dragons eating with great interest. Shillong felt that this food is very delicious. This creature that is frozen with a thin layer of ice, without any cooking, is surprisingly good. It's somewhat similar to the Blue Planet sashimi. Shillong took big bites, then swallowed the frozen meat after chewing a few times. His young teeth were as sharp as serrated blades. With a single bite, the tough meat along with the small frozen surface was instantly torn apart. His performance is much better than the 3 small dragons next to him. The teeth of these 3 newborns are obviously not as good as Shillong's teeth. Every time they take a bite, they have to shake their head a lot and use quite a lot of their muscles before tearing it apart. Shillong ate too fast, quickly finishing the meat on his side. After that, he didn't try to act politely. He directly squeezed his wyvern brother to the side, then took his place. He might have been born with great strength, as he was able to easily drive his brother away, then started eating. The wyvern that was pushed away angrily screamed. He tried his best to push Shillong back and regain his position, but how could he be Shillong's opponents? He held his position firmly like a little overlord. Although the small wyvern tried his best to push him away, he didn't budge even an inch. The small wyvern tried pushing Shillong several times, but seeing that it didn't work, it walked towards his brother and started eating with him. Perhaps the newborn wyvern's appetite was relatively small, so it didn't take them long to stop eating and start roaring. A few minutes later, the small silver dragon also stopped eating, then started roaring his name loudly, again and again. The remaining part of the prey was eaten by Shillong. Shillong ate at least half of that giant beast. After eating, Shillong felt his hunger finally disappearing. He looked up at the silver dragon mother in front of him, then started copying Armin, saying his name again and again. While watching all of this unfold, the silver dragon mother just smiled while gently petting her 4 children. Shillong started copying Armin and saying his name over and over again because he didn't know what to do next. As a human who was involuntarily reincarnated as a dragon newborn, Shillong didn't dare to show too much abnormality. He followed Armin's example for several hours until Armin became tired and laid on the ground before he followed. After a while, the silver dragon mother got up again and left the cave. The moment she left, Shillong directly stood up and shook off the piles of gold and treasures on his body. Just now, he and Armin drilled into the treasure pile and played for a while before resting. Shillong actually didn't like doing this, he just copied Armin. This small silver dragon seems to like treasures very much. Armin likes to rub his head and roll over this treasure pile. Part 2. Glancing at the Wyvern brothers who were sleeping on the ground not far away, Shillong stood up and walked to the gate blocking this big space. The height of this gate is 10 times higher than him. Passing through the gate, there is a tunnel in front of him, which has the same dimensions as the gate. On both sides of this tunnel, there are many crystal lamps connected to the wall, each one emitting a soft white light. These symmetrical crystal lamps made the gloomy tunnel very bright. After walking along the tunnel for a while, Shillong finally reached the cave entrance. Outside of the cave, there are huge trees everywhere. Each one of them is taller than the cave itself. This seems to be a forest. Shillong didn't have the guts to leave the cave. He isn't a suicidal person. Leaving the cave at this time is certainly very dangerous. This cave is the nest of an adult silver dragon. It's full of her aura, so ordinary beasts and even monsters don't dare to approach it, let alone enter it. So he just stood at the entrance of the cave for a while, then walked back inside the cave, next to his brothers, and fell back asleep. Part 1. Chapter 3. Shillong returned to the cave without anything out of the usual happening. Every day after that, Shillong's lifestyle consisted of eating, sleeping. He lived just like a lazy pig. After sleeping for almost 18 hours every day, he will enjoy the carefully prepared meal made by his mother after waking up. The only difference between him and a pig is one simple function. Shillong discovered that his body seemed to have no excretion function. This is strange. Anyway, his 3 siblings do have this function. Every day, a silver gray, cool turd could be seen on the ground of this luxurious and beautiful decorated cave. Every time these turds appear in the cave, the silver dragon mother will emit a faint silver glow from her hands, driving the turd into the air, then outside of the cave. This scene is very magical. Shillong can finally confirm with certainty that this is a Western fantasy-type world. This is good. At least this indicates that the power ceiling of this world won't be too low, giving him more possibilities. A month later, still in that gorgeously decorated cave, the 4 little dragons have changed a lot. They have grown up a lot. The 2 little wyverns are now 2 circles bigger than before. Armin is 1 circle bigger than the small WYRMS. Of course, Shillong is the one that changed the most. His body size has at least doubled. Compared with the rest of his brothers, he looks like an adult next to a single 12-years-old child and 2 8 to 9-years-old children. This greatly surprised the silver dragon mother. Shillong didn't know why. Maybe it was because he ate more? Boring. It has been a month since I came to this world. Every day, I kept repeating the process of eating and sleeping, sometimes staring at the wall or the pile of treasures in a daze. I can't stand it anymore. It would have been better to never reincarnate. I'm going to die without the internet. I have to find something to do. Thinking about this, Shillong resolutely stood up, then walked to the door of the cave. Seeing this, Armin, who was lying on a pile of treasures, immediately opened his mouth and said, "Shillong, what are you doing? Didn't Mother tell us to never go out? I just want to go out and bask in the sun at the entrance of the cave, staying in this place every day. Aren't you bored?" Shillong replied, "Armin, this kid could only repeat his name over and over again a month ago. But in just 1 month, his level of wisdom has significantly improved. I'm now able to hold conversations with him with no problem." Shillong estimated that his intelligence and wisdom are no less than an 8-years-old human child. "Shillong, why don't you listen to our mother?" Armin cried loudly from behind. Shillong turned around and said to his little brother, "The surrounding area is full of Mother's aura. Moreover, I will just stay at the entrance of the cave. There won't be anything dangerous. And how many times have I told you? Call me Big Brother. Shillong, you bastard. Don't think that since you were the biggest, I will call you Big Brother. I will never admit it. You stupid kid. Even if we don't count that, I'm the first one that broke through the egg, so I'm the Big Brother. You can't lie to me. Since Mom didn't say that you were the Big Brother, then you are not my Big Brother. According to the custom of the Dragon Clan, the bigger and stronger one is the Big Brother. But you are different from me. You are black, and I am silver, so you are not my Big Brother. TCH, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm going out to sunbathe," Shillong said angrily. Then, ignoring Armin, he walked straight out of the big gate. Seeing this, Armin angrily stomped the ground with his forelimbs. "Since Mom said to take care of each other, I can't let you go out alone." After saying this, he followed behind him. However, after taking a few steps, he stopped, because the 2 small wyverns are following behind him. "Roar!" Armin immediately turned around and roared. scaring the two small wyverns to escape. "Humph, two stupid guys," Armin murmured, then quickly followed Shillong. The two small dragons, one behind the other, quickly walked to the entrance of the cave. Shillong walked straight out of the cave, to an area where the sun could shine on him. Shillong couldn't help groaning. Oh, so comfortable. He has the feeling of finally resting after 3 consecutive days of working. It's so cool. The warm and comfortable sunlight caused Shillong to feel very happy and fuzzy. The sunshine even caused him to feel lazy. His previous thoughts of exploring the situation around or looking for something interesting have completely disappeared. Without taking anything into consideration, he lazily laid on the ground. He suddenly turned around, exposing his belly and letting the sun shine on his face. His golden pupils directly looked at the sun. He didn't feel any discomfort. In fact, he felt very comfortable. "Shillong, you really are a weird guy. You don't like shiny treasures but like to bask in the sun. Look at your ugly black scales, they can't reflect light. Then look at my scales. They are silver. So shiny, so beautiful." Armin taunted Shillong, then started admiring his own silver scales, looking very obsessed. Shillong ignored Armin and continued basking in the sun. After lying there for a while, the silver dragon mother, Viola Soderbergh, finally arrived with today's food. She slowly landed on the ground, looking at her 2 children with a displeased look on her face. "Shillong, Armin, didn't I say that you can't get out of the cave? Why did you go outside? It's dangerous. What if something attacked you while I was away?" "Mom, it's the fault of Shillong. He was the one that wanted to go outside. Since I couldn't persuade him, I could only follow and supervise him." Hearing his mother's reprimanding, the newborn silver dragon Armin said anxiously. He doesn't want to be criticized by his mother. "Good job, my little Armin is so sensible," Viola exclaimed, then gently rubbed the head of her small child. Armin squinted happily. "Shillong, what's the matter with you? Why did you leave the cave?" Viola turned around and asked Shillong, who was still lazily laying on the ground. "Because it's too boring, Mom. It's so boring to stay in a never-changing cave every day, eating and sleeping with nothing else to do." Shillong replied lazily. He is now no longer as vigilant as before. After a month of getting along, he already has a certain understanding of his mother. She is a very kind female dragon. "Huh? How did you learn to feel bored at such a young age? There are so many shiny treasures inside, including silver and gold. Why do you still feel bored?" Viola looked puzzled. She recalled her childhood, sleeping and rolling on her mother's treasure pile. How happy has she felt? That was simply one of her happiest memories. Why does Shillong still feel bored? "Those treasures aren't mine," Shillong said casually. It's the nature of the dragon race to like treasures, a natural instinct. He doesn't want to reveal the fact that he doesn't like treasures right now, as that would make him an extremely weird dragon. "A little Shillong, do you want your mother's treasure? That's impossible. This is the result of your mother's hard work for more than 100 years. If you want your own treasure, you must wait until you grow enough to go out and look for it yourself. It's too early for that. I like to bask in the sun. Don't you feel comfortable under the sun rays, Mom?" "I don't feel like that," Viola replied after thinking for a moment, then turned to Armin next to her and asked, "Little Armin, do you like to bask in the sun?" "I don't like it compared to sunbathing. I prefer to sleep on my mother's treasures," Armin said. Part 1. Chapter 4. Armin is the normal one and Shillong is the abnormal one. The dragon mother Viola nodded repeatedly. Finally, she grabbed the lazy Shillong and walked to the cave. "Let's go back. I brought you some delicious food." Armin quickly followed behind them. In the following days, Shillong still went out of the cave every day to bask in the sun. Seeing that her warnings and reprimands are not working, Viola just kind of gave up. Instead, she repeatedly told Shillong to stay at the entrance of the cave. He must never get far away from it. Furthermore, she instructed Armin to supervise Shillong. Compared to other children, Armin is the most obedient and reliable. He has to supervise the 2 wyverns and follow Shillong every day so as to check that he is following their mother's warnings. Although he isn't as big or as strong as Shillong, Armin has always regarded himself as the big brother. Only the most orthodox silver dragon is worthy of the title of big brother. As a former adult human, Shillong didn't play with the 2 wyverns, nor did he care about the childish behavior of his brother Armin. Although they are practically born at almost the same time. Whether it's in terms of body size or personality, Armin is still a child to him. Shillong blankly stared at the sky while sunbathing. This is the only thing he can do, otherwise he will go crazy from boredom. Time quickly flew, and another year has passed. On a certain day, in the open space outside the cave, Shillong was still lying on his stomach lazily as usual. He has grown a lot in the past year, especially his body size. Compared to a year ago, his body size has more than doubled. This rate of growth is terrifying for even a true dragon. After a year of growth, the difference between him and Armin has grown even further. Armin looks like a 5-year-old kid next to an adult when he stands next to Shillong. Not to mention the two wyverns compared with Shillong. It's almost like comparing newborn babies to an adult. He can basically pick one of them with one hand. Shillong, do you like the treasure mother gave you? Armin, who laying beside Shillong, suddenly said. It's a dragon nature to love treasures, but as young dragons, they still don't have the ability to go out and gather their own treasure. Therefore, some very kind dragon mothers give their children some of their treasure while they are still under their protection. Just a little bit though. Really just a little bit. Each dragon can receive up to 2 silver coins a month. Furthermore, they can get an extra gold coin every year. Although that's just 1 hair out of 9 cows for most adult dragons, it's still very hard for them to do that. I like it, Silum replied with closed eyes. Then why don't you sleep on your treasures? Why do you still go out to bask in the sun every day? Because I like the sun more. You're lying. You definitely don't like those shiny gold and silver coins. Shillong, give me your treasure. I will take care of them more than you. That's impossible. Why is it impossible? You obviously don't like it. Armin said, an annoyed look on his face. You don't have to worry about that. Mind your business, Shillong said lazily. You bastard. You're really the shame of dragons. Armin slapped the ground with his tail in annoyance. Do you want my coins that much? Shillong finally opened his eyes and looked at Armin. Of course. That's what I deserve. Do you know how uncomfortable it is for me to watch you bask in the sun every day, leaving the treasures that Mom gave you behind? Armin grunted. It's not impossible for me to give them to you. As long as you play a game with me, I will give you my coins if you win. Shillong suggested. Really? What game? I'll play with you. Armin jumped up excitedly after hearing Shillong's words. It's a very fun game. A brand new game that you have never played or even seen, Shillong said with a smile. Immediately afterward, Shillong got up, walked toward the nearby tree, then stretched his claws. His claws are pitch black and extremely sharp. They don't look like something a creature should have, but rather a legendary sword that took a craftsman his entire life to make. Its sharpness is unparalleled. Softly pressing, his claws were easily inserted into the tree. Then he used some force to move his claws across the tree. Shillong casually pulled out his claws back, then gently patted the tree trunk. Bang! Along with a loud sound, the 10 meters tall tree collided with the ground. Armin looked at Shillong curiously and asked, What are you doing? Is this the game that you're talking about? Do you want to see who can cut more trees in a short time? Do you really want to play this type of game, Armin? Armin looked at Shillong with wide eyes, then immediately shook his head. Of course not. What a joke. Why should I look for abuse and play this type of game with this bastard? This cheating bastard. How can he grow so fast? Aren't we born at the same time? Why is he so much bigger than me? Everyone has the same age. Why is there such a difference in body shape? How can I exert my authority as a big brother like this? Don't worry. The game that I'm about to make is one that you definitely never saw or heard of. Shillong continued to work while talking. He continued to cut the tree that fell on the ground into even smaller pieces. Not long after, many blocks of wood with relatively similar size were laid on the ground. After that, Shillong looked for a relatively flat rock and rubbed those tree blocks on it. After smoothing one side, he turned the wood block around, then started sanding the other side. After smoothing both sides of the now relatively thin wood block, he put it on the ground. After demonstrating how to smoothen out a wooden block, Shillong called Armin to help him smoothen the rest. Together, the two of them quickly smoothed out all the square wooden blocks into card-shaped wood blocks. After doing all of this, Shillong started engraving some symbols on his makeshift cards. A, 2, 3, 4, 5, J, Q, K, square, triangle, circle, love, heart. A total of 52 cards. This is Shillong's version of his past life poker. Looking at the slightly rudimentary playing cards on the ground, Shillong patted his palms with satisfaction. This is my first step to reform entertainment in another world. Armin, now that we have created the props of the game, the next step is making the rules of this game. Listen carefully to what I'm going to say next. Let's start with 3-card poker. The rules are... Do you understand? Shillong carefully explained the rules to Armin, then said, Well, I roughly understood it. It feels very interesting. Armin's silver eyes shimmered with light. It's unknown whether it's because he got too excited or if it's just the sun shining on them. After this year of growth, Armin's intelligence and wisdom are basically the same as a 14 or 15 years old human. For a game that is not too complicated, he basically understood it after listening to the rules one time. Now all that he needs is a bit of time and practice. That's good. Let's play a few games first, Shillong said with a smile on his face. He shuffled the cards, then put 3 in front of Armin and himself. After that, he picked a bunch of small stones from the ground and said, These stones will be used as chips first. After getting familiar with the game, we will use our gold and silver coins as our chips. You liar. It turns out that you were eyeing my treasures from the beginning. In fact, you didn't plan to give me yours at all. Armin, who understood the rules of the game, yelled angrily. Although this game sounds interesting, if he has to wager his treasures in it, then it won't be as fun as he thought it would be. The thing that caused him to be angry the most is the thought that after losing, he will have to give his treasures to this bastard Shillong. What? Are you scared? Do you think that you will lose? Shillong said with a provocative look on his face. That look caused Armin to instantly explode. Of course not. On wisdom, I will never lose to an overdeveloped guy like you. Ha! That's the spirit. Part 1. Chapter 5. The game starts now. Both sides put a small stone as their ante. Immediately, Shillong put 3 cards in front of Armin and himself. After distributing the cards, Shillong looked at his 3 cards. His hand isn't that good, it's a pair of 5. Shillong played first, adding 2 stones as a bet. Because it was his first time playing this game, Armin looked cautiously at his cards before playing. Armin won the first round with his pair of 8. After winning, Armin grinned broadly, revealing his shiny silver teeth, and said, "Humph, Shillong, as I said, you really are my opponent." He looked to be in a very good mood. His confidence has also greatly increased. Shillong was faintly smiling the whole time. In response to the provocation of Armin, he just said, "Kid, you just won 1 round, so don't talk big." The 2 dragons continued to play, and in the subsequent games, Shillong rarely won, losing most of the rounds to Armin. Most of the time, he folded after looking at his cards, causing Armin to mock him for being timid. After playing several times, Shillong eventually lost all his stones to Armin. After losing all of his stones, Shillong, still with a relaxed look on his face, said to Armin, "Armin, are you getting used to it? Do you want to play for real?" "Of course, Shillong. Since you were so anxious to give me your gold coins, I have no reason to refuse." Armin looked confident. Afterward, Shillong still wanted to use stones as the smallest chip because the number of their silver and gold coins wasn't very high. 10 small stones can be counted as 1 silver coin. However, this proposal was rejected by Armin. He was full of confidence, and he wanted to quickly end this game and win all of the silver and gold coins in Shillong's hands. The game rules didn't change, but this time the 1 silver coin was used as the ante. This time Armin was the dealer. After he finished shuffling the cards, he put a silver coin as the bet. Shillong glanced at his own cards, all of which were single with the highest being only 10, so he folded without any hesitation. Due to the fact that they converted all of their sliver coins into chips, which are only about 20 or so, it's impossible for them to place a large bet or play unscrupulously, so they try to be as cautious as possible. Only if the odds of victory are high will they place a heavy bet. This time, it was Armin's turn to fold. His eyebrows were scrunched as he folded, grumbling loudly. "Damn, my biggest card is actually only a J." Shillong smiled through the whole process without saying anything. This time it was Shillong's turn to be the dealer. After distributing the cards, Shillong casually added a sliver coin without even looking at his cards. Armin did the same after looking at his cards. Shillong added another silver coin. Armin hesitated. After looking at his cards, he folded them while angrily saying, "Damn it, your luck is very good, Shillong. My biggest card is only AQ. I would definitely continue the bet if I had a pair." Shillong just smiled and turned his cards up, allowing both of them to see the cards. 3, 8, and 9. There isn't a single pair, and even the card numbers aren't too high. Lower than that of Armin. Seeing these 3 cards, Shillong pretended to look surprised, then said with a smirk on his face, "Haha, it seems that my luck is really good, Armin. Although my cards are worse than yours, I still won." "You, damn it." Armin looked even angrier after hearing Shillong. It would have been better to not see it. This bastard Shillong never showed him his cards after losing, but every time he wins, he taunts him by showing them. He really has a bad taste. But don't be too proud of yourself. The god of luck will definitely take care of me. In the end, all of your silver and gold coins will end in my hands. I will definitely win. Just like before, Armin comforted himself like this. However, the outcome of the next few games vastly differed from Armin's thoughts. Shillong showcased a huge difference from his previous game style. Every time Armin gets a large hand, Shillong immediately folds, but every time he gets a smaller hand, Shillong always continues playing. It's as if he could see his cards. Even when they have relatively similar cards, Shillong always somewhat win. In this round, they placed a huge bet of over 10 silver coins. Although Armin tried to act as calm and collected as possible, his shaking tail betrayed his emotions. "I can finally win this round. I'll make Shillong spit all of his previous wins." With interest, Armin looked at the 3 cards he was holding on his tender claws. 8, 8, 8. 3 of a kind. This is undoubtedly one of the highest hands in the game. Furthermore, it's the biggest hand that appeared until now. Since the start of the game, this is the first time that 3 of a kind has appeared. The coolest thing in the world is that when your opponent is confident in his hand, thinking that he is guaranteed to win, but then you show him an even a bigger hand, and watched the look on his face change. And this time, Shillong seems to be quite confident in his hand. Does he dare to raise the bet with me? I will show him today who is the true big brother. Thinking of his upcoming victory and the many silver coins he is going to get, a smirk crept up on Armin's face. What he didn't notice is that Shillong was also slightly smiling. He was watching the whole time as Armin tried his best to stay collected, but grinned from time to time. All the while a shallow smile remained on his face. Shillong glanced at the cards in his hands, then said, Armin, you seem confident. Then I will add another 5 silver coins this time. It's also just the number of silver coins that you have left. Let's go all out and bet everything this time. Okay, we'll see who's the one that will laugh at the end. Armin snorted coldly and added his last 5 silver coins to the bet. Immediately afterward, he showed his card to Shillong while laughing. Ah, Shillong, see this? 3 of a kind. These silver coins are mine. I'm going to get back all of my previous losses. Armin stretched his claws while laughing loudly, trying to drag away the silver coins between them. Wait, Armin, it's not a good thing to be so anxious. Shillong stretched out his left hand and grabbed the slender paw of Armin, stopping him from taking the silver coins. Then he also turned around the cards in his right hand, exposing the hidden numbers 7, 8, 9. Moreover, there is a triangle at the top of each of these 3 cards. It's a straight flush, the highest hand in the game. How is this possible? Armin's silver eyes widened to the extreme, looking as if they were going to pop out. After a long time, he said, How is this possible? I have 3 of a kind, you have a straight flush. How could such a thing happen? We played for so long before, but the highest card that popped out was a flush. How could the 2 highest hands appear in a single turn? Nothing is impossible. Armin, you lose. Your silver coins belong to me now. Shillong smiled and dragged all silver coins to his side. Damn it, my silver coins. You took all the treasures that my mother gave me. Damn it. Armin's eyes were red due to anger. In fact, he looked to be about to cry. His tail kept smashing the ground due to his extreme emotional burst. Ha! Don't be angry, Armin. After a few months, we can continue. You still have a chance to win back all of your treasures. Shillong said with a smile on his face. Damn it, I can't wait for so long. Shillong, lend me some silver coins first. Let's continue. Armin looked very frustrated. He is panning to redeem himself. This proposal looks quite tempting, but I refuse. Shillong pretended to think a bit, then refused the proposal of Armin. Damn, I promise that I will pay you back. Shillong, Mom gives us a lot of silver coins every year. I will definitely pay you back. Armin looked very anxious. He is truly desperate to get his treasure back. Dragon's natural greed and love for treasures made it very difficult for him to accept the loss of his only property. Then wait for a year. We will continue when Mom gives you your yearly silver coins. Damn cunning bastard. Armin roared desperately. Suddenly, a huge black shadow obscured the sun above their heads, causing Shillong to frown a little uncomfortably. He raised his head and glanced at what suddenly covered them, then lowered his head in silence. Part 1. Chapter 6. The sound of a heavy object colliding with the ground sounded. Even the ground shook slightly. A behemoth landed beside Shillong and Armin. Armin angrily raised his head, but when he saw what the behemoth was, the anger in his face immediately disappeared, replaced by grievances. He called with a cute look on his face. Mom! The behemoth is Viola Soderbergh, the mother of Shillong and Armin. Armin, what are you doing with Shillong? Why are you so angry? Viola asked. As an adult true dragon, her eyesight is extremely powerful. Even when she was hundreds of meters away from the ground, she still clearly saw the expression of anger of Armin's face. Mom, I lost all the silver coins you gave me to Shillong, Armin said with a look of shame on his face. Oh, is that so? That's really a pity, Viola expressed her sympathy. At the same time, her huge silver eyes turned to the wood cards on the ground. She said with an interested look on her face. Were you using these things to play before? Can you tell Mom what are the rules of the game? Viola looked very interested in this game. She didn't pay much attention to the fact that Armin lost. After all, she is the one that gave those silver and gold coins to the two, and she will continue doing so until they become teenage dragons and leave the nest. In the face of Viola's inquiry, Shillong didn't shy away. He directly told her how to play and the game rules. Viola listened intently. She squinted her eyes slightly, silently looking at Shillong for a while before saying, Little Shillong, how did you come up with this game? As a silver dragon who lived more than 200 years, she has rich experience and is very familiar with everything in the human world, including their ways of entertainment. Shillong's game is somewhat similar to their ways of gambling, but there are still some differences. This kind of game can't be created by a 1-year-old dragon who lived in an isolated island since birth. It's too boring, Mom. Every day when I'm basking in the sun, I like to close my eyes, then think about various interesting things. I came up with this game after many days of deliberation. Shillong said calmly, not flinching in front of Viola's sight. Is this what a mutant dragon is capable of? Born to have an extraordinary body and an unconstrained mind. She thought of several famous mutant dragons on the mainland. They seem to behave very differently from normal dragons. Some of their actions are truly eye-popping. After a long silence, Viola suddenly smiled and said, in that case, how about I play with you? Huh? Of course you can, but the wood cards I made are too small for you, Mom. They should be very inconvenient to hold. The wooden cards made by Shillong are, of course, made according to his and Armin's body size. For their mother, who is more than 10 times their size, these cards are too small to hold. She can't use cards that are smaller than even the tip of claws to play, right? That is not a problem, Viola said. Her body suddenly started glowing silver, then gradually started shrinking. Soon enough, it became even smaller than Shillong, a humanoid creature. She completely became the elf that all males in his previous life love and yearns for. She looked like a young woman in her 20s. A smooth, silky silver hair fluttered down her head to the middle of her back. She had pointy ears, a perfect face, and a hot body. She wore a gorgeous silver-white dress that made her look not only elegant, but also majestic. This is a woman with the perfect image that anyone can ever imagine, whether it's a man or woman. Shillong looked a little sluggish. Mom, is that you? Of course. Baby, this is the humanoid form of your mother. Viola smiled sweetly. Remember what I told you before? Humans are the race with the most population in the entire continent. Although their strength is incomparable to true dragons, they are too numerous to count. In fact, they're the ones dominating most areas of the continent. My current form is that of a humanoid creature called elves. Compared with humans, they have a much smaller population, but a much longer lifespan, quite close to the lifespan of our dragons. Their natural talents and appearance are also vastly superior to most humans. I quite like the look and temperament of the elves, so I chose an elf as my humanoid form. Can I also transform into a humanoid creature in the future? Shillong asked curiously. Of course, Viola replied confidently. That's great. Shillong felt that as long as he can take a human form, he can finally do some shameful things with young ladies. Otherwise, the only type of creature he can do shameful things with is female dragons. Thinking about two hill-sized creatures doing shameful things in the open, it's just too. Wait for a second. That doesn't seem to be bad too. Doing the deed with a female dragon seems good too. The moment such a thought popped up in Shillong's mind, he was shocked. Why do I suddenly feel that female dragons are good too? My aesthetic shouldn't have changed so quickly, right? No, wait. Thinking back to what female dragons look like, Shillong suddenly recalled his mother's dragon form. Those silvery scales, that elegant figure, that perfect body shape, the huge body. Ah, she's really beautiful. No, I can't think about this anymore. Otherwise, my aesthetics will really change. Shillong madly shook his head, driving these terrible thoughts away from his head. Taking a deep breath, he started distributing the cards to himself and his mother. The two dragons, mother and son, confronted each other. Armin could only watch on the side. After playing 7 or 8 rounds, things were out of Shillong's expectations. Apart from the first few rounds, he rarely won after that. He even lost 6 silver coins. This situation caused Shillong's brows to crease. This is extremely abnormal. These cards are all made by him, and he remembers about 90% of the lines behind each card. This is why he was able to casually win against Armin. Simply put, he has been cheating while playing cards with Armin. From the lines behind each card, he could be said to know what card Armin had at each round. The poor and innocent Armin never thought that his brother would cheat. It's just that with such a big advantage, why can Viola always win, and it's always such an overwhelming win? Something is wrong. Shillong squeezed the cards in his hand and stared intently at his smiling mother, and Armin cheering her on the side. He glanced at the cards in his hand, 3, 7, and 8, then silently added a silver coin to the bet. Viola also glanced at her cards, then added a silver coin. Shillong frowned again, then directly folded his cards. This is the second time. It's definitely not a coincidence. If he remembers correctly, then Viola cards should be 5, 6, and 10. With such a small hand, it's impossible for her to also increase the bet so confidently. At least, a beginner shouldn't do so, even if she doesn't care about such a small amount of money. Based on her previous bets, Shillong felt that she is seriously playing this game. Therefore, there is a problem. For 2 consecutive times, she followed his lead and increased the bet when her cards were slightly bigger than his. There is only one possibility. She also knows my cards. Shillong came to this conclusion. Glancing at the smiling Viola, he asked tentatively, Mom, you must know my cards, right? Ah, Shillong, what are you talking about? How could I know your card? I can't see them from here at all. Viola in her elf form widened her eyes and said innocently, Shillong, you big moron, don't talk nonsense. How dare you slander mother? Armin, the small dragon suffering from a mother complex, immediately exploded after hearing Shillong's words. This bastard Shillong is slandering his beloved mother. No, I can feel it. Mom, you must know what my cards are. Is it magic? Since there is a kind of magic that can turn you from a dragon to a humanoid and one that let things float, then there must be one that allows you to see my cards. Shillong said with an expression of confidence on his face. Oh, my baby Shillong is so smart. You guessed it. Viola clapped her hands joyfully. She wasn't embarrassed at the fact of being caught cheating. Isn't this cheating? How could mother cheat? Almond looked at Viola in shock and disbelief. I didn't cheat. You didn't mention any rule about not using magic. Viola argued. Part 2. Part 1. Chapter 7. This. Shillong didn't know how to refute. When Armin heard his mother's argument, his eyes immediately lit up. He said with an excited look on his face. Yeah, you didn't say that you can't use magic to peep. Mom didn't cheat. Viola smiled sweetly. She stroked Armin's dragon head gently and praised him. Good boy, you are so sensible. Armin narrowed his eyes slightly, enjoying his mother's caress greatly. Whatever, it's my fault you didn't cheat. I'm not playing anyway, Shillong said helplessly. He lay down on the ground and basked in the sun like a lazy cat. Viola wasn't reluctant. She just returned from her daily hunt, bringing back with her the children's food for today. The card game could be said to be just a small pastime. After the game was over, she pointed to the prey on the ground and said, You should be very hungry. Mommy has already prepared today's lunch. Today's lunch is a bear-like beast, with a body size even bigger than that of Shillong. The fur on its body has long been stripped off, leaving smooth and delicious-looking meat. After Viola finished speaking, she whispered some slurred syllables, after which a blue light appeared in her hand, gathered into 4 long ice blades, then flew out and divided the beast into 4 pieces. The largest piece is almost half of the beast. This one belongs to Shillong. The second biggest one is about a quarter of the beast. This part belongs to Armin. The last one will be divided by the 2 wyverns in the cave. After dividing the beast into 4 parts, Viola transformed back to a dragon, then carried the part that belongs to the 2 wyverns and flew back into the cave, leaving Shillong and Armin outside. Due to the fact that he just lost all of his silver coins, Armin was not in a good mood. He was chewing on his food aggressively. His eyes wandered from the food in his hand to the silver coins next to Shillong every 10 seconds, his eyes full of reluctance. Time quickly passed. The same days continued to be repeated over and over again. Shillong, who felt that he is likely going to be bored to death in the cave, always liked to get out and bask in the sun. The obedient Armin always followed him. Although every day they can only repeat the same boring activities, time slowly passed by. For years later, Shillong and Armin finally became a glorious 5-year-old dragons. The 5-year-old Armin is finally a little bit bigger than 1-year-old Shillong. Considering that human form Viola is almost 1.8 meters tall, Armin with his long neck standing on all 4 is just a bit over 2 meters. However, 5-year-old Shillong doesn't look like a 5-year-old dragon at all. All dragons, between 1 year and 10 years old, are in the baby stage. Their size at that stage isn't very big. Even if it's a 10-year-old dragon, its size won't be that much bigger than a 5-year-old one. Dragons in the baby stage don't experience explosive growth. A 10-year-old dragon with a height of 3 meters on all 4 limbs is very good. However, Shillong, who is only 5 years old, is shattering Viola's common sense. As an adult silver dragon that has lived for more than 200 years, Viola has never seen or heard any dragon who has an explosive growth like Shillong. That's right, it's an explosive growth. Shillong, who is only 5 years old, is already over 8 meters tall. He is almost half the height of Viola. How old was I when I had the same size as Shillong? Viola thought for a while, maybe in her 50s or 60s, right? That's what a normal dragon's growth process should look like, right? Is this guy Shillong really her son? Viola sometimes suspects whether she really gave birth to him or not. However, the heritage of the dragon family and the bloodline connection between them indicate that Shillong is indeed her child. No matter how abnormal he is, for years later, the sun was shining brightly. Today, Viola and her children were inside the cave. She looked seriously at Shillong and sad. Little Shillong, your growth is a little bit beyond my expectations. In just 5 years, you grew to be so big. Follow me, your mother wants to see your strength. This is a ritual unique to the neutral good metal dragon family. Usually, after a young dragon becomes 10 years old, when they are about to reach the young dragon stage, they supervise them as they hunt their first prey alone. However, this set of rules is obviously not suitable for Shillong. His size is already equal to a 50 to 60-year-old dragon. Do I have to go out? Mom, can't we wait a few years until I become a little older? Shillong said reluctantly. Although his current lifestyle is very boring, he is cautious by nature. From his perspective, the outside world is mysterious and dangerous. He still wants to grow a bit more before going out. It's like playing a game. Shillong is the type of person that likes to level up to a high level in the novice village, then confidently go outside. Viola was a little speechless for Shillong's cautious nature. After a short silence, she tried comforting him. Don't worry, Mom will always be by your side. Baby, I just want to see if your size is proportional to your power, all right? Shillong nodded in agreement. The two dragons walked out of the cave one after the other. Armin, who has been quietly listening on the side, slowly followed behind them. He also wants to go. Viola stopped moving, then turned around and said, Armin, you should stay at home and watch your younger siblings. Okay, Mom, you can rest assured I will definitely take good care of the two of them. Armin, who originally wanted to go out together, replied obediently. As a good child, he must listen to his mother. Watching the two big dragons leave, Armin couldn't help but complain. Shillong, how could you grow so fast? Damn, why is my growth so slow? I also want to be that big. Gaga, the two wyverns behind him cried cutely. Armin looked back at the two wyverns, which are much smaller than him, and felt much more comfortable. After going outside, the two dragons quickly flew into the sky and started looking for prey. Flying is a dragon's natural instinct. Shillong has learned to fly a few years ago. With his excellent eyesight, he could clearly see everything on the ground at a height of over 100 meters. After searching for a while, Viola dived down, bringing Shillong with her. A bison-like beast appeared in front of the two dragons. Compared to the bull Shillong saw in his previous life, this bull can be counted as a giant. However, that's just compared to its normal bison. In front of Shillong and Viola, it's very small. Its height is about 3 meters, which is just a bit higher than Armin. The arrival of the two dragons scared the bison greatly. Mo! Crying out in fear, it turned around and ran. Shillong used his 4 limbs to chase it at a very high speed. All the trees on the way were brutally broken by him. In the blink of an eye, Shillong appeared behind the bison. Then, using his giant claws, he slapped the bison on its back. Without having the chance to either cry or even fail pain, the bison turned a pile of meat sauce. It seems that these ordinary animals aren't a challenge for you at all, Viola said with a look of surprise on her face. Then, without paying attention to the bison that turned into a meat sauce, she led Shillong away, flying back into the sky. This time, they flew even higher, reaching the height of 1 kilometer above the surface. Viola led Shillong to continue searching for prey. This time, because of the high altitude, she didn't plan to go down with him. She pointed at a giant wolf on the ground and said, Little Shillong, have you seen that wolf? That's your opponent this time. Shillong looked seriously at the giant wolf below. It might look small due to their current altitude, but Shillong knew that it's not small at all. It's at least as big as him. Part 1. Chapter 8. Turning around slightly, Shillong shook his wings, diving straight down towards the wolf below. His speed is amazing. It has reached the speed of sound, which is definitely not something that a dragon of his size should have. This is all due to Shillong's unique body structure. His wings are much thicker than that of ordinary dragons. They are usually folded together. Only when he is flying will they unfold like a fan. At the end of his wings, there are 2 big holes, which are usually hidden. Only when he is flying will he open them. TL. You can search for Jet Dragon from Monster Hunter. They are very similar. These holes are the fundamental reason why Shillong is so much faster than the average dragon. It's like a fighter jet engine. With a single thought, Shillong can activate them, releasing a gold-red firework-like substance, increasing his speed to shocking levels. Boom! Shillong looked like a meteorite. Along with many sonic booms, he dived towards the giant wolf at an extremely terrifying speed. Shillong deactivated his biological engine when he was just a few dozens of meters away from the ground, reducing his speed slightly. The giant wolf may have sensed the danger, as before Shillong could hit it, it moved slightly to the side, avoiding direct impact. Boom! However, the impact created due to Shillong colliding with the ground still caused great destruction. Many earth debris flew out like bullets, colliding with the giant wolf body and inflicting great damage to it. After escaping to the side, it looked very disheveled, with dust-covered fur and many shallow injuries on its body. Due to the collision of Shillong and the ground, a dent with a diameter of tens of meters and a depth of 3 to 4 meters appeared on the ground. As the dust slowly dissipated, Shillong slowly appeared from the dust cloud. Whoa, whoa! The giant wolf bared his fangs at Shillong. His nose wrinkled and his whole body's hair stood up from the root, looking like steel needles. Even more sinister is that a red hue appeared on its body. Its expression was full of alertness, roaring menacingly from time to time, trying to scare Shillong away. However, all of this was in vain. Tensing his legs, Shillong kicked the ground heavily, creating a crater with a diameter of several meters. He used the repulsive force to jump towards the wolf at an alarming speed. Whoa! Seeing the enemy approaching, the giant wolf roared angrily. When Shillong was about to collide with it, it jumped to the side, avoiding his destructive attack. Boom! Along with the sound of an explosion, Shillong's tail heavily landed on the previous location of the wolf, creating a long gully. Shillong was just like a berserker, continuously launching destructive attacks, but the giant wolf is agile, as it was able to dodge Shillong's attack relatively unharmed every time. Just a minute later, the ground was filled with many pits. It looked as if a war occurred there. Boom! 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 After using his claws to pull a long trace on the ground, Shillong suddenly stopped attacking. His giant tail restlessly moved around, showcasing his frustrated mood. The agility of this giant wolf is a bit beyond his expectations. Apart from the first dive which caused damage to it, he wasn't able to damage it in the slightest after that. Is it because of his lack of combat experience? Or is the strength of this giant wolf too high? Seeing that the giant wolf is slowly retreating again, Shillong suddenly unfolded his wings. Then from their tip, a golden reddish flame suddenly shot out. Boom! In just a fraction of a second, along with the sound of the ground exploding, Shillong appeared in front of the giant wolf. What? The giant wolf whimpered in astonishment. It was too late for it to dodge, or even move. It could only tense its muscles before being hit by the heavy Shillong. With a huge impact force, Shillong and the giant wolf flew over 70 or 80 meters, breaking several trees before they stopped. What? Suffering from such a heavy injury, the ferocity and animal nature of the giant wolf was aroused. At the moment when both of them stopped, it turned around, opened its mouth, and ferociously bit on the neck of Shillong. Oh! Feeling a bit of pain on his neck, the golden black eyes of Shillong looked at the giant wolf. The next moment, he turned over and used his thick hand and claws to clutch the neck of the giant wolf. Whoa! The giant wolf whimpered in pain. Its body twisted madly, but it still stubbornly bit on Shillong's neck. However, no matter how hard it flexed its jaw muscles, Shillong hardly suffered any damage. The defensive ability of his scales is much higher than the average dragon. Shillong gradually increased his grip, destroying the neck of the giant wolf, and causing its struggle to become smaller and smaller. After a while, the giant wolf has completely stopped moving. Shillong slowly let go of the dead wolf, but before he could even stand up, two other wolf howls sounded from the distance. Whoa, whoa! Shillong raised his eyes and saw that a few hundred meters away, two giant wolves appeared unexpectedly. Furthermore, they are even bigger than the one he just killed. They are at least 1/3 bigger than this wolf that caused him quite a lot of trouble, maybe its parents? Viola, the worried mother who had been supervising the battle from the sky, also saw this situation. She clearly saw the hatred in the eyes of the two giant wolves. As expected, in the next second, they sprang toward Shillong at an extremely high speed. Viola swooped down toward Shillong. The little guy might not be able to handle two raging wolves at the same time. In her imagination, Shillong can kill a raging wolf with the same size as him, but he shouldn't be able to fight against two at the same time and ones that are bigger than him. However, in the next moment, Viola violently stopped midair. Her instincts and danger perception are conveying her an unbelievable message. There is danger below, and a danger that can threaten her life. Viola's eyes searched for the source of danger for a while before her eyes fell on Shillong. Seeing that two giant wolves are attacking this time, Shillong didn't panic at all, but took a deep breath. His abdomen gradually bulged, and the gap between his stomach scales started glowing with gold. In the next moment, Shillong widely opened his mouth and spat a golden red flame. The moment the flame left his mouth and started contacting the air, it quickly started expanding and spreading around. When the flame touched the ground, the trees, and the two giant wolves, it suddenly changed, creating a huge explosion. The power of the explosion is frightening. Boom! The explosion covered everything within a few hundred meters in front of Shillong. For a second, everything was covered in white light, followed by a giant explosion and a large mushroom cloud. The huge impact washed away everything that hadn't been directly turned into ashes. This large explosion changed a large area of the forest shape. The extremely high temperature distorted the surrounding scenery, making the scene look unreal. Even Viola, who was a few hundred meters away from the ground, was also slightly affected. But as an adult silver dragon, she used her huge ice magic to instantly cover her body with an ice armor. But the high temperature and shockwaves still caused her to recede a few dozens of meters away. Even her ice armor melted a bit. Seeing everything in front of her, Viola was speechless. She took a deep breath, then flew toward Shillong. At this time, Shillong's two nostrils and holes at the end of his wings were continuously spraying white gas. White gas was completely covered his body. He glanced at everything within the explosion range, and as expected, there was no sign of life over there. Whether it's the trees, grass, or the two huge raging wolves, they have all turned into ashes. No trace of their existence remains. After the dust cloud receded, In a range of a few hundred meters, the ground sank 6 or 7 meters, and looking around, it was full of scarlet bubbling magma. This is really amazing. This terrifying breath was due to Shillong just following his instincts. As early as a year ago, he felt some abnormal change in his body. An extremely hot flame seemed to grow in his body. He can extract the power of this flame and release it in the form of a breath attack. Part 2. Although he is a mutant dragon, Shillong still has the inherited memories of the Silver Dragon clan, so he knows what this ability is. It's the natural fire-breathing ability of the dragon race. No matter what type of creature, as long as it has a dominant true dragon bloodline, even if it is a wyvern, it will be able to awaken this ability after growing to a certain age. Part 1. Chapter 9. However, previously, Shillong never tried to test the attack power of his dragon breath. He knows that dragon breath is a powerful attack ability with a wide range of damage. Coupled with the fact that his previous range of activities wasn't large and that he didn't have any enemies to fight, so he didn't bother trying its power. Because of this, the first time he used it, he was greatly shocked by its power. "Child, is this your dragon breath?" Viola looked at extreme destruction in front of her silently before asking Shillong. "Yes, mother, I'm also surprised by its power." Shillong turned around and replied. "I knew it. This dragon breath is unimaginably powerful. He is only 5 years old, but his dragon breath power can make me feel fatally threatened. I don't know whether this kid will bring endless trouble to our ethnic group in the future. I must guide him well and make him a truly kind dragon. His mind must be filled with goodness and beauty. Praise His Majesty Bahamut. Child, I feel burning, death, destruction, curse, mystery, and darkness in your body." Viola said, "Mom, didn't you tell me before that there are no good and evil power, just good and evil people? Power is just a tool I use. I won't be controlled by it." "Don't worry, mother. I remember everything you taught me." Shillong replied seriously. Not long after their birth, their mother Viola started instilling into them that they must be good and kind dragons. They must definitely not act like evil, filthy, and disgusting 5-color evil dragons. The Metal Dragon clan belongs to the camp of justice, so they're keen on educating their children while young. To be a good metal dragon, just the inherited memories aren't good enough. "Well, you know, my child, your dragon breath is too powerful and too destructive. You shouldn't use it too much in the future, whether it's on this island or after you go outside," Viola reminded. "Okay, mother." Shillong agreed obediently. Just as the two dragons were planning to back home and sleep, Shillong suddenly felt extremely hungry. This sensation of hunger came very suddenly and violently. This caused him to suddenly stop his action. Viola immediately noticed Shillong's abnormality and quickly asked him, "What's the matter, child?" "Mom, I'm feeling very hungry. My body, my brain all need food. Mom, I'm feeling so hungry. I might go crazy. Is it overconsumption? Or are you just going into sleep?" The power of the dragon breath that Shillong just used is huge, so it's not unusual for it to consume a lot of energy. It might also be the dragon sleep that belongs solely to the dragon family, so he needs to eat a lot before that. "Let's go hunt quick," Viola said with a rushed tone. When Shillong heard his mother's words, he immediately unfolded his wings, then released the red-gold flame from his wings, instantly disappearing from his original place. Viola slowly followed behind Shillong. She is now quite at ease knowing Shillong's strength. The raging wolves Shillong just killed were originally the kings of this island. There were only 3 of them, and now that he killed them all, he can be said to be invincible on this island. Hunting is no longer difficult for Shillong. Viola has been following behind Shillong. She watched as he tackled down any beast he met on the way, then after killing it with 1 or 2 slaps, he will devour it entirely, not even leaving bones behind. This behavior continued for about 2 hours. In the end, Shillong ate almost 100 beasts and monsters. He ate some dozens of times bigger than his body. Only then did Shillong and Viola return to the cave. However, when they reached the cave entrance, Shillong did not go in. He had not lived inside Viola's cave for more than a year. Only Armin and the 2 wyverns live there now. They couldn't stand the aura that Shillong subconsciously releases while sleeping, so he took the initiative to sleep outside the cave. His sleeping place has always been the top of this mountain. There is a large open space at the top where Shillong usually sleeps. Currently, after landing there, he immediately closed his eyes and went to sleep. Viola looked at him quietly. The sunlight shone on Shillong's jet-black scales. The golden light flowing through the cracks between his scales became more active than usual. A trace of heat radiated around Shillong's body. This heat is no ordinary one. It's filled with the aura of death, destruction, aging, mystery, and darkness. Viola looked at her baby son for a long time with soft eyes before returning back to the cave. Once every several days, Viola will go to check on Shillong. He is still sleeping peacefully. The only thing that changed is that the area around him has become hotter. As the days passed, Armin also learned of Shillong's dragon sleep. The days where they don't bicker with each other became very monotonous and boring, especially that he rarely has anyone to play with. When Viola is away, he can only relieve his boredom by bullying his younger siblings. A year later, Armin also ushered in his own dragon sleep. After Viola fed him, he was sent into the underground secret room she prepared before. This underground secret room was excavated under the cave and was specially prepared by Viola. When a true dragon is in the midst of a dragon slumber, he must not be disturbed by other creatures. Although it will not completely interrupt their transition from a certain age period to the other, making them unperfect, it will very irritable and uncontrollable. No dragon likes to be disturbed when he is deeply sleeping. Time quickly passed again, 3 years after Shillong fell asleep. Outside the dragon cave, a purple magic circle suddenly appeared, and along with a surge of spatial magic power, 3 figures suddenly appeared outside the dragon cave. These 3 figures are all humans, 2 men and 1 woman. One of them is an old man with sparse gray hair, wearing a black robe and holding a cane in his hand. The other man is a middle-aged man, wearing a set of leather armor. His body is extremely burly, and he held a big sword that is bigger than the old man next to him. The woman looks in her 30s, but her dress is much more revealing. Her clothes and pants are connected together, but they have many holes in them. These holes expose the woman's white skin. Coupled with the woman's pretty face and hot body, she exuded a sense of temptation. Their faces didn't look very good. The moment they appeared, the old man among them started shouting angrily. "You 2 horny animals! Just as the plan was about to succeed, we were actually discovered because of your cheating. My efforts for so many years were wasted because of you. My treasured teleporting scroll. You really should go to hell. My hatred won't be relieved until I see you 2 burn in hell and be tortured to death." "Okay, you dirty old man. Rebecca has been a guest of the Earl for more than 10 years as the chief magician. You must have got a lot of benefits, right?" The middle-aged man retorted angrily. "You disgusting bastard. I really shouldn't have used my teleport scroll to take you with me," the old man cursed. Okay, stop arguing." The gorgeous woman interrupted the 2 impatiently. She looked quite anxious. "The 3 of us escaped, but my poor child, I don't know how he is now." "Huh, bitch. If it weren't for your horny axe, we wouldn't be in this situation. Why did you have to cheat at that time?" The old man didn't give the gorgeous woman any face. He directly pointed his crutches at her nose and started cursing loudly. The woman's face looked even worse. "Child? That child must be dead, now that our affairs are exposed. Even if the Earl is stupid, he will definitely find someone to identify whether that child is his or not," the strong man said with a sullen face. "Then, what should we do? Our child is so smart and so cute. He is innocent. Let's go back and save him." The woman had a panicked look on her face. Part 1, Chapter 10, Save Him? How to Save Him? The old man laughed angrily. "I just used the priceless 1,000-mile teleportation scroll. Once used, people will be randomly teleported thousands of miles away. I don't even know where we currently are. Save him? Pooh. My precious teleportation scroll." The old man felt very distressed. He originally paid more than half of his wealth in order to get that teleportation scroll. If it wasn't for avoiding the mighty Earl Varial, he wouldn't be willing to use it. There is no place for them now in the entire kingdom. They could only use the teleportation scroll. The farther they can escape, the better. Humph. It doesn't matter. If the child is gone, we can just make another one. You don't have to act so bitchy," the strong man shouted impatiently. "The top priority now is to figure out where the teleportation scroll sent us." The woman called Rebecca was calmed by the burly man's words. The 3 of them finally started looking around. Now the 3 of them are in a clearing, with trees everywhere on the left and a huge cave on the right. The 3 of them looked at the cave silently for a moment before the middle-aged man said, "The cave on the right is very big. It should be the living place of some kind of giant beast. We should go and look inside. If there is some giant beast, we'll kill it. Anyway, we need a place to spend the night in." The other 2 had no opinion on this proposal. Although the entrance to the cave is huge, the 3 of them are quite confident in their strength. Apart from Rebecca, who is quite weak, the other 2 consider themselves very strong among humanity. The middle-aged man used to be the head of a mercenary group before becoming the chief guard of the Earl. The old man is the chief magician of the Earl and a very strong mage. Although they use some tricks to get closer to the Earl, their strength level is unquestioned. In their respective fields, both belong to the master level, so they aren't afraid at all of some wild beasts or weak monsters. The group of 3 people entered the cave. The middle-aged man walked in front. The old man and the woman followed behind him. There are gorgeous chandeliers hanging on the walls of the tunnel, which gets bigger the deeper they walk inside. The old man and the middle-aged man looked at these chandeliers and suddenly felt a bit nervous. Things might not be as simple as they thought. This cave isn't the living place of some simple beast. These low IQ animals can't hang gorgeous chandeliers on the wall. Is there anyone else here? The group walked slowly and nervously for a while before they reached the end of the tunnel. A huge gate appeared in front of the three of them. The door was partly opened, and the cry of some kind of beast could be heard from inside. The middle-aged man slowly approached the door, then stuck his head and looked through the small opening. After taking a single glance, he almost suffocated. His eyes widened to the extreme, and his face visibly reddened. Seeing that the middle-aged man didn't respond for a while after looking inside, the old man and the beautiful woman decided to check together. They also extended their heads and peeked inside. In an instant, the two of them felt suffocated. OMG! This cave is full of gold coins, silver coins, and various shiny gems. What is this place? Is it heaven? Why are there so many treasures? As long as we have these treasures, we can become rich and fulfill all of our wishes, right? What shit is Earl Varial? With these treasures, it doesn't matter if we are being hunted to the end of the earth. These treasures are enough for us to squander in a lifetime and still have extras. The three swallowed unanimously, immersed in their beautiful fantasy until they heard the beast roar from inside again. The three humans gradually shifted their sight. The well-informed burly man and the old man's pupils immediately shrank after seeing the beast inside. The difference between them is that one is excited and one is afraid. Both of them have seen the creatures inside before, whether it's in fiction or reality. There is no doubt that these two cubs are two wyverns that have real dragon's blood flowing inside of them. Wyverns don't belong to intelligent species. They are considered monsters, pseudo-dragons. What truly sets them apart is the fact that they possess true dragon blood, making adults and baby wyverns have an extremely high value. Their entire body is filled with rare treasures, which all mages desire to get. Their entire body can also act as a secret medicine. They provide endless benefits to the human body, strengthening the body, increasing magic powers, and enhancing the spirit. Each wyvern body is worth over 10,000 gold coins. It's a wealth that the three of them never dreamed of having before. It's also because of this that the middle-aged man looks so excited. So what if they were discovered by Earl Valia? So what if his son died? As long as he has these treasures, then all of this doesn't matter. As long as he eats the flesh and blood of these two wyverns, then his strength will greatly increase. This is what all warriors dream about. In front of these two wyverns and this pile of treasures, the plan they have been working on for over 10 years is insignificant. Goddess of luck, bitch. You're still very nice to me. Ha, the middle-aged man was laughing madly internally. However, the old man thinking was entirely different from that of the middle-aged man that was blinded with greed. His complexion immediately changed after seeing the two wyverns. As an elderly mage over 60 years old, it is inevitable that he has extensive knowledge. These two little wyverns, judging from their appearance, must be wyverns of the silver dragon bloodline. The old mage has a certain understanding of this type of dragon. Some of their behaviors are also recorded in ancient books. The good nature of silver dragons prevents them from kicking wyverns out. They will raise even wyverns for at least 10 years. 20 years is also possible, and these two wyverns obviously are less than 10 years old. They are still in the baby dragon phase. This shows that their mother, an adult female silver dragon, must be nearby. Adult dragon. That's not something they can deal with. Only a strong man of the legendary level or the kingdom's royal army can deal with them. Not to mention, her partner might also be with her. Although metal dragons are kind in nature, they won't be kind to anyone that's staring at their treasures or children. We can't stay here, the old man murmured indistinctly. However, neither the beautiful woman nor the middle-aged man paid attention to him. Only the treasures and two wyverns remained in their sight. It might have been due to the fact that the three of them remained at the entrance of the gate for a long time, as the two wyverns finally spotted and started roaring at them. Seeing that they were exposed, the burly middle-aged man arrogantly pushed the door and walked in. In response, the old mage immediately grabbed the shoulders of the man and said anxiously, "What are you doing? This the nest of an adult dragon. Let's leave quickly." Leave? With so many treasures and the body of two wyverns in front of me, you are telling me to leave? The strong man smiled disdainfully, then broke free of the old mage's grip. Jones, are you getting timider with age? Are you really crazy? Or do you think you can defeat an adult dragon? Are you delusional? Do you think that you are a legendary level warrior? The old mage Jones shouted loudly. Humph, I don't need to defeat their mother. I only need to defeat these two little things. I can give up these treasures, but I can't give up the flesh and blood of these wyverns and their heart of true magic, said the strong man confidently. Idiot, you're alone if you want to die. Seeing that persuading this bloke is hopeless, the old man cursed one last time, then quickly ran outside the cave. The strong man spat on the ground and said disdainfully, "Coward, can you even call yourself a mage? You don't even know the saying of looking for wealth in danger." Rebecca was still stunned. She didn't pay to their conversation at all. From the beginning, the only thing left in her eyes were those shiny golden treasures and beautiful gems. Part 1. Chapter 11. After the burly man broke in, the two small wyverns inside the cave became nervous. They squatted and glared heavily at the middle-aged man, making low growls, trying to look as threatening as possible. Regarding this, the burly man disdainfully smiled. Two baby wyverns dare to bare their fangs at a master fighter? He dragged the sword tip on the ground while approaching the two wyverns, making a piercing sound and looking very intimidating. The distance between them got smaller and smaller. Finally, one of the two wyverns couldn't stand it anymore. It roared loudly, then pounced on the burly man. "D!" The strong man yelled loudly. He swung the sword in his hand from top to bottom. Whoosh! The sharp sword pierced the chest of the wyvern, splashing mercury-like blood everywhere and leaving a bone-deep scar. Whoa! The baby wyvern wailed sadly. It landed on the ground, then struggled to crawl away in fear. The other wyvern was obviously stimulated, but it was too afraid to attack. It wailed sadly with tears in its eyes, crying for its mother to come back. What a beautiful silver treasure! The strong man looked at the silver, glowing mercury-like blood, and let out a sigh of amazement. He slowly brought the sword closer to him, then sniffed the blood on the sword. A few seconds later, he extended his tongue and licked it. Well, the strong man closed his eyes lightly, then said with an intoxicated look on his face, "I can feel the power. It's filling my body. The exhaustion is disappearing. This is the power of dragon blood. It's fascinating." He, slowly opening his eyes, the middle-aged man looked at the two wyverns with a fanatical look on his face. The two baby wyverns quickly retreated until their back touched the wall of the cave. They looked at the middle-aged man with a fearful look on their faces, hugging each other while trembling in fear. "You are mine. Your body, flesh, blood, everything is mine," the strong man exclaimed excitedly. Then, without further nonsense, he quickly rushed towards the two wyverns. The two wyverns tried to resist, but they weren't opponents at all. One of them was quickly killed after a few strikes, powerlessly falling into a pool of mercury-like blood. Its eyes gradually dimmed, leaving only some whispering-like sounds before dying. "Wha!" The other wyvern cried in fear at the sight of its brother falling into a pool of blood. It quickly ran towards the gate of the cave, trying to escape with every inch of remaining power it has. "You want to run? How could it be so easy?" The burly man had a sneer on his face. Just when the wyvern was about to reach the gate, he suddenly jumped towards it. He somersaulted in the air, then threw his broadsword towards it. The 2-meter-tall sword fell sharply towards the small wyvern, penetrating its body and nailing it to the gate. "Whoa!" The baby wyvern screamed and started to struggle, but the more it struggled, the more pain it suffered. Its body was broken, and its injury also widened. In the end, its struggle became weaker and weaker until it powerlessly laid flopped on the floor. "All of you are mine," the middle-aged man said again. He slowly walked towards the dead wyvern, then pulled back his sword. After inserting it on the ground, he slowly stretched his head, inserting it in the wound of the dead wyvern, then started to slowly gurgle its blood with an intoxicated look on his face. As for the beautiful woman, Rebecca, she hadn't left yet. She was currently lying on the pile of treasures, stuffing the gold and precious treasures in her pocket, while admiring the beautiful jewels with an obsessed look on her face. The burly man drank the blood from the wyvern's body until its blood dried out. Only then did he stand up and wipe the silver blood from the corner of his mouth. His original blue pupils gained a touch of silver, and he felt a strange sensation coursing through his body. He heavily clenched his fist, creating a small shockwave in the air. The middle-aged man had a satisfied look on his face. "I feel the power. It's much stronger than before. This is just drinking its blood. If I can eat the whole body of this wyvern and eat its heart, maybe I can even reach the legendary level and become a powerhouse in the continent." He grabbed the tail of the dried-up wyvern, then dragged it towards the treasure pile. He picked up some gold coins, gems, and treasures at random, stuffed them in his pocket, then said to the obsessed woman, "Rebecca, quickly pick some treasures. We are leaving." "Leave? Leave?" Hearing what the burly man said, the woman woke up from her reverie and looked at him in amazement. "Of course. The coward Jones is right. This is a silver dragon's lair. No matter how brave I am, I know that I'm not the opponent of the silver dragon. Now that we got enough benefits, it's time to leave," the burly man said. "But if we leave, what about these treasures? We can't take much with us." Rebecca hesitated. "Wait for me to become stronger in the future and kill the owner of this lair, and everything here will be ours," the burly man said confidently. "Okay," the woman agreed. She quickly grabbed some treasures, filled all the pockets in her body, then followed the middle-aged man after reluctantly glancing at those treasures. The middle-aged man dragged the body of the dead-up wyvern to the other dying one. Splash! Looking at its trembling body and frail wails, the middle-aged man penetrated its heart down mercilessly, splashing blood everywhere. Oh, we can't waste it. Feeling a bit of a pity, the strong man quickly grabbed the wyvern and started sucking the seeping blood out of it. However, after drinking for a while, he felt that he can't drink anymore. He is full this time. With a look of regret on his face, the burly man wiped the blood on the corner of his mouth and said to Rebecca on the side, "Drink some too, it's good for you." This? Rebecca looked at the silver blood with a look of hesitation. "Idiot, don't dawdle. This is a good thing. After drinking it, you will not only become healthier and stronger, it will also make you younger," the man shouted loudly. Younger? Rebecca's eyes lit up slightly. Without any hesitation, she put the treasure on the ground, then drank the silver blood greedily. Only after being unable to drink anymore did she reluctantly stop drinking. "Although it doesn't taste great, I really feel that I have become stronger. These treasures don't feel as heavy as before. You really didn't lie to me." Rebecca quickly felt her own change and said with an overjoyed look on her face, "After all, you are my woman. Naturally, I won't treat you badly," the burly middle-aged man said. He inserted the sword back into his scabbard, then dragged the body of the two wyverns outside, leaving a trail of silver blood on the way. Almost a minute later, the man and woman finally reached the entrance of the cave. Just as they were about to leave, the burly man suddenly felt something wrong. A huge shadow covered the sky. He hurriedly raised his head, and what he saw caused his face to change drastically. He exerted his strength to the maximum, throwing the two wyverns' bodies that he was treating as a treasure just a few seconds ago. "Run!" The strong man suddenly yelled, then ignored Rebecca, jumped out of the cave, then run towards the forest. Before Rebecca could figure out what was going on, she heard a deafening roar. Roar! The huge roar was full of anger, bubbling rage, and majesty. Rebecca's body instantly stiffened. Her crotch gradually became hot, and a hot liquid slowly trickled down along her pants. She peed her pants. However, Rebecca didn't care about this at all. Her thinking became muddled, but she instinctively knew what happened. She slowly raised her head. Part 1. Chapter 12. Her huge, silver body covered the sky. Her smooth scales and slender figure exuded a strange beauty under the sun rays. Unfortunately, Rebecca was unable to appreciate this beauty at all. She was petrified due to fear, unable to think at all. Roar! The silver dragon roared angrily. She just glanced at Rebecca, then waved her wings and flew towards the burly man. The huge wind pressure, formed due to the dragon's wings flapping, blew Rebecca to the ground. She stared blankly at the back of the dragon. A yellow liquid still trickled down from her pants. Damn! Why am I so unlucky? Why did that dragon come back so soon? Is that coward Jones right? Should I run away from the start? The escaping middle-aged man couldn't help but think of Jones. No, I'm not wrong. That risk was necessary. Cowards like Jones don't deserve strength. Only courageous people like me deserve to have the strength and rule over the weak. With a firm look on his face, the burly man ran with all his strength. But how can he be a match to a true dragon's speed? Even if he ran into the dense forest, he still can't get rid of the dragon's chase. These ancient trees with a diameter of 2 to 3 meters are like a fragile branch in front of a true dragon. They break with just a slight touch. The huge silver dragon madly chased after the burly man, and other creatures were frightened by the loud noise and the dragon aura and quickly escaped. The distance between the two is getting closer and closer. The burly man could already feel the strong winds behind him. Damn monster. It seems that I can't get rid of you. But don't underestimate me. I'm a master warrior. The burly man stopped escaping, stomped heavily on the ground, then used the recoil to quickly jump towards the incoming dragon. He pulled his broadsword from the sheet midair, then slashed towards the silver dragon. There is a huge difference in body size between the two, just like a human and a kitten. However, this man who was like a kitten exuded an amazing aura. The giant sword in his hand was wrapped in a silvery white aura, slashing towards the incoming silver claws. D! The burly man roared loudly. He felt his blood boiling. He's going to teach this monster a lesson. Human master warriors aren't easy to mess with. If he can't escape, then he will fight. The giant sword heavily collided with the giant claws. Boom! The collision resulted in a huge shockwave. The pupils of the burly man suddenly shrank. His most powerful blow could only barely create a small opening in the scales at the end of the silver dragon's claws. This opening can't even be counted as damage at all. It's like a small chip in a human's nails. It didn't have the slightest effect. However, this is a full blow from a master warrior. The courage in the heart of the burly man receded like the tide, replaced by boundless fear. Is this a real dragon? Is this the legendary monster that only legendary level powerhouses can deal with? How can I be so naive? I actually thought I could fight this monster. Horror and regret filled the man's heart. He didn't face a real dragon before, so he didn't know that it's so powerful. He considered the rumors about them before as stupid ramblings. How strong a true dragon can be. It shouldn't be that much stronger than those monsters I killed before, right? These were his naive thoughts and blind confidence. Crack! The burly man jumping towards the dragon was like a moth jumping towards a lamp. He was easily pinched between the claws of the true dragon. The former huge power that he was so proud of was like the struggles of an ant in the face of the silver dragon's wrathful grip. Ka! 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 The sound of bones breaking and shattering sounded from the man's body, followed by his loud screams. Humans can be divided into good and evil, and so are dragons. Although I'm a kind silver dragon, I will never forgive the murderer of my children, Viola said in a low, wrathful voice. Evil human, your greed resulted in not only the death of my children, but your death as well. Blurp! Blood was spurted out from the mouth of the middle-aged man. His blood is no longer pure red. A faint silver halo could be seen flowing through it, and this caused Viola's rage to spike even more. Stupid monster, everything. There is no good or evil in this world, only strength and weakness. You won. So you could say whatever you want, but if I won, things would have ended differently. The burly man struggled to speak. Viola frowned slightly. She moved her hands closer to her face. Her frost-filled breath slowly landed on the man's body, causing traces of ice to form on his head and other body parts. Evil bastard, tell me how you got here. How many of you have come to this island? Island? The man had a surprised look on his face, then said with a shit-eating grin. That coward Jones, sure enough, he sent us to a good place, an island, haha. Answer my question, bastard, Viola said with a deep voice. Suppressed rage could be heard in her voice, cough. I won't tell you. Even if I'm dead, I won't tell you. Stupid monster, the man said with a wicked grin on his face. He currently desires nothing more than death. Being held between the claws of an adult silver dragon, his bones have almost all shattered, his body was shredded in many places, there is no hope of recovery, so he just wants to die. The moment he became a mercenary 20 years ago, he had been prepared to die. Even if he did countless evil and wicked things in his life, he didn't regret doing them. Even if he survives and goes back like this, he's going to suffer a fate worse than death, so it's better to die now. Tindi, Viola furiously said. An evil bastard who killed her children in cold blood dared to act like a hero who isn't afraid of death in front of her, and this infuriated her. Although these two weren't true dragons, specifically saying, almost no dragon considers them as their children. However, as a metal dragon, silver dragons' feeling and emotions are very rich. Furthermore, Viola is actually very gentle and kind even amongst silver dragons. Even though she doesn't consider them as her true children, it's undeniable that she gave birth to them. They have her blood flowing inside of them, and frankly, she developed feeling for them while living with them for so many years. Hence, their death greatly saddened and angered her. Viola's dragon claws suddenly exerted a terrifying force. The ugly bastard burst into a pile of meat in her hand, trickling down along the gaps between her claws and falling into the ground. Boom! Viola flapped her wings and flew back towards Rebecca, who was still lying on the ground like a demented person. Looking at the sluggish woman below, Viola retracted her dragon aura. After a while, Rebecca regained her sanity. She pulled down the treasures in her pocket and threw towards Viola while crying. I will return these treasures to you. Please let me go. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything to your children. I'll ask you, how did you come to this island? How many people are with you? Viola asked with an indifferent look on her face. I'm telling the truth. You will let me go, right? I'm innocent. Answer my question. Human. Viola's voice finally started to crack due to anger. She didn't want to talk for any longer with these wicked people. She felt the aura of her child's blood flowing through the body of this woman. This woman also drank the blood of her child. Please let me go. I really didn't do anything. I'll tell you what you want to know, but please let me go. Rebecca continued begging. Answer my question. Viola couldn't stand it anymore. She grabbed Rebecca and stared at her with her huge silver eyes. The frost breath unconsciously seeping out from her mouth caused Rebecca to shiver. Looking at the huge dragon face in front of her, Rebecca's fear erupted, screaming loudly. I will say everything. I'll tell you everything. Jones brought us here. It's him. It's all his fault. Who is Jones? It's a mage. He brought us here using his magic. How many of you came here? Three people? Please, let me go. Part 1. Chapter 13, 3 people? What about the mage? Viola's heart tightened. The most dangerous pest has disappeared, causing her to be very anxious. Her children's life will remain in danger as long as that mage is still on this island. She doesn't need to worry about the safety of Shillong. Even if he is sleeping, ordinary things can hardly cause any damage to him. That child's scales are incredibly hard, almost comparable to those of an adult dragon. She is mostly worried about Armin. That child is just an ordinary baby silver dragon. His current strength is far from being able to match the strength of the previous master-level warrior. Since that mage can bring these two here, then his strength must vastly surpass that of the warrior. She can't risk the safety of her children. He ran away. That guy was afraid of being discovered by you, so he left us and ran away alone, Rebecca said with a look of resentment in her face. Why didn't that senile old bastard take me away with him? He left us and escaped alone. What a disgusting man. Rebecca didn't consider at all the fact that the old man did warn her and the middle-aged man, but they were blinded by greed at that time, so they didn't pay attention to him. Run? Are you sure he didn't act with you? Viola stared at Rebecca with giant silver eyes, scaring her to the point of pissing her pants. Yes, he escaped. He ran away after seeing the treasures and these two monsters in the cave. Originally, he wanted us to go together, but Machi wanted to kill two monsters. He was the one that prevented me from leaving. He was the one greedy for your treasures. I am innocent, Rebecca said with a trembling voice. He escaped. It will be best if he leaves this island. But I will not put down my guard. Armin, your mother will always be by your side to guard you in the future. Coming to a decision internally, Viola's eyes turned back to Rebecca, but this time they were much colder. Perhaps Rebecca felt something as she suddenly started to struggle. Let go of me. I told you everything I know. Let me go. Stop acting. You evil woman also drank the blood of my children, Viola said coldly, causing Rebecca to be shocked. She wondered how this dragon knew that she drank that monster's blood. Just as she was about to say something, puff! Viola suddenly tightened her claws. Rebecca soon followed the path of the middle-aged warrior, Machi. Viola shook off the mess in her hands, then scanned the entire forest with her silver eyes. Human mage! The day my children wake up will be the time of your end. Although you neither killed nor drank the blood of my children, they still died because of you. I will never let you go, Viola thought internally, then returned back to the cave and waited at the entrance of Armin's sleeping place. True dragons stand at the apex of all magic species. One of their abilities is energy storage. They can eat a massive amount of food and store the energy in their bodies, then refrain from eating for months or even years. Another reason why they can go without eating for a long time is that they can naturally absorb the energy needed for survival from their surrounding environment. Usually, this absorption speed is actually quite slow. This is why they need to eat, but when they are in deep sleep, the speed of absorbing the energy skyrockets. Viola, who wanted to protect Armin, laid at the entrance of his sleeping room. Her head was on her hands and her wings were tucked. She also entered a pseudo-sleep state where her biological activities slow down and the speed of absorbing energy rise to the level of dragon sleep. This is the state most dragon use to survive in food-deficient areas. Of course, this state can't last as long as true dragon sleep. Time quickly passed again. Another 3 years have passed. It's been 5 years, almost 6 since Shillong entered his true dragon sleep. On this day, the sun still hangs in the sky as usual. The black dragon on the top of the mountain finally opened his eyes. The golden radioactive particles in the dark vertical almond-shaped pupils seemed to pierce the sky. The entire mountaintop has become shiny as the dragon opened his eyes. The original distorted space due to high temperature slowly recovered as the dragon converged the heat he was emitting. Shillong woke up. His body isn't weak as his inherited memory has recorded. He just felt a little hungry. His body was still full of strength, stretching his limbs. Shillong slowly looked around. The top of the mountain, which was originally quite wide, became a lot smaller. Moreover, the previous rock formation has now drastically changed. The top area is red, with many red mushrooms growing on it. Looking up, Shillong's eyesight has greatly improved. He could clearly see the sea dozens of kilometers away from the top of the mountain. Feeling the gentle sun rays caressing his scales and the hot air comfortably swimming in his lungs, Shillong roared loudly with a happy look on his face. Roar! His roar sounded like thunder, shocking the entire island. Creatures all over the island were shocked upon hearing this sound, causing them to escape everywhere. Some of the weak creatures even died due to running away in fear and accidentally colliding with a tree. The larger ones directly broke the trees in their way and continued escaping. For a while, chaos covered the island. An old mage holding a wooden staff looked at the source of the roar with a stunned look on his face. He murmured indistinctly, "Is this the roar of the silver dragon on this island?" There is a faint emotion conveyed through this sound, joy. Is it my illusion? 3 years ago, The idiot Machi might have killed the two wyverns, but since I didn't see any trace of these two since then, they're likely dead. I wonder how long will I stay on this island? The old mage Jones is very helpless. Although he is a master-level mage, he really has no way of leaving this island. He had only one teleportation scroll. Although he can use flying spells, this type of spell is very mana-consuming. Looking at the endless sea, he really didn't have the guts to use this type of spell to leave the island. If he doesn't reach the land before his mana runs out, then he is likely to become some sea monster's meal. Just as Shillong's roar stopped, two dragons, one large and one small, appeared in front of him. They flapped their wings and flew in front of Shillong. It's Viola and Armin. Looking at his younger brother, Shillong felt that after not seeing his younger brother for 5 years, he became even smaller. However, a second later, Shillong realized that this is his illusion. After comparing the sizes of Viola, Armin, and his side-by-side, he quickly realized his mistake. It's not that Armin has become smaller, it's him that became much bigger. Mother! Armin! Shillong shouted while looking at his two loved ones. Viola looked at Shillong with a happy look on her face. She is quite satisfied with Shillong's growth. With a smile on her face, she happily said, "My child, you finally woke up. Your growth speed is really unprecedented in the history of dragons. You're almost as big as me. It's really annoying. The big guys become even bigger, and I'm still so small," Armin said with a look of annoyance on his face. With a slight smile on his face, Shillong unfolded his wings and flew back to the ground. Viola and Armin followed behind him. As soon as he landed on the ground, Shillong finally got a clear grip on how much his size increased. He is currently only slightly shorter than Viola. As for Armin, he just barely reaches the lower half of his limbs. Armin felt even more angry after feeling Shillong's weird gaze. He spread his wings again, flew on Shillong's back, and landed on it. He angrily stomped the black scales of Shillong while saying, "Shillong, you bastard. Don't look down on me. I'm not small. It's you that's getting ridiculously big." In this regard, Shillong just smiled. He always regarded Armin as a younger brother. His stomps felt at most like a slight tap. He doesn't mind these spoiled acts of his at all. Part 1. Chapter 14. Seeing such a scene, Viola smiled with satisfaction. The harmony between the two brothers and the tolerance of Shillong prove that his nature isn't evil. That's good. This is what a good dragon should look like. This is the result of my careful teaching. It's just that the other two kids, how my poor kids. Thinking of this, the smile on Viola's face gradually faded, replaced by a look of sadness. The sharp-eyed Shillong immediately noticed this. He asked with a worried look on his face, "Mom, are you upset? You can tell me if you have any trouble. I should be able to help you now." "Child, it's not a combat issue. It's about your two younger brothers. They were brutally killed," Viola said with a mournful look on her face. "What?" Shillong was shocked. "It's all your mother's fault. Someone broke into the island while I was hunting outside. It took me too long to notice. When I went back, I saw two humans coming out of the cave with the body of your two brothers dragged behind them. This." Shillong was a little silent. To be honest, his feeling for the wyverns are very weak. The only people he considers as his family are Armin and Viola. He considers the two unintelligent wyverns barely as distant relatives or even pets. In fact, Armin thinks so too. Only Viola considers them as her children. She gave birth to them, so her feelings for that are much deeper than the Shillong and Armin's feelings for them. "How did you deal with the two humans?" Shillong was silent for a while. He didn't know how to comfort his mother, so he could only reluctantly change the subject. "They were all killed by me. Although we are good dragons, we don't need to be soft-hearted while dealing with evil people. Shillong, do you understand?" Viola said. Even at this time, she didn't forget to teach Shillong about the values of metal dragons. "Of course." Shillong nodded. "Although I killed the two murderers, there is still a person on this island. You must be careful. After interrogating the two evil humans, I learned that the third person is a mage. He is the one that brought them here. You have to be careful in the future. This island is hundreds of kilometers away from the main continent. The mage is probably still here. You shouldn't underestimate him." Viola warned her two children. However, while speaking, her eyes were mainly on Armin, who was still standing on Shillong's back. This warning is mostly for him. Viola is actually very confident and trustful of Shillong. This child's strength might not be worse than her. His strength progress is similar to that of the legendary dragons at the top of the True Dragon clan. She doesn't need to worry about him from such a young age, making her feel relief and great pride. Feeling his mother's gaze, Armin nodded obediently and said, "With Mom on my side, I'm not afraid of any evil people." Shillong also nodded calmly. Viola nodded in satisfaction, then said to Armin, "You're also very safe following your big brother, you know? He's not my big brother. He's just a big black bastard. Moreover, his strength is far from comparable to that of you, Mother." "Mom, I don't want to follow him. I want to stay by your side." Armin yelled anxiously when he heard Viola's words. He liked staying on his mother's side. Although his relationship with Shillong is good, it's far from comparable to his relationship with his mother. Mom is the best. Okay. You're still acting like a baby at such age, Viola said helplessly. Woohoo, Armin screamed happily. He quickly jumped from Shillong's back to his mother's back, rubbing his head comfortably on her neck. Since the death of the two wyverns, he clearly felt the increase in his mother's love for him, causing him to feel very happy. Although he knew that this is wrong, but he still can't get enough of his mother's love. Viola twisted her huge head and nuzzled with Armin, causing him to be on cloud 9 due to happiness, then turned around and started talking with Shillong. My child, we true dragons from the Silver Dragon clan have had a ritual since ancient times. After a dragon reaches the teenage dragon stage, it will leave the arms of its parents and travel to one of the main continents. Although your age is not enough, your growth is exceptionally fast. Your strength has far surpassed the standard of teenage dragons. Do you want to go to a certain continent now and experience life there? Mom, you said that we must wait until our teenage years, which is around 40 years old. I'm still only 10 years old. Don't you think that I'm too young to go out now? I still want to stay by your side, Mom. Shillong shook his head and refused. But your strength is more than enough. No, Mom, I think that I need to be stronger. Well, since this is your decision, then I respect it. Viola shook her head helplessly. Is he reluctant to be separated from his dear mother? These two little guys really love me. It's just that Armin exhibits his love openly, and Shillong hides it well. Viola thought proudly. In the following time, the three dragons depended on each other. Especially Shillong, he took the initiative to hunt for the family, so as to not trouble Viola. In such a simple and fulfilling lifestyle, another 7 years quickly passed. In the past 7 years, Shillong once again created many card-playing games. Whether it's Landlord, Stud Poker, Blackjack, Solitaire, Monopoly, etc., he almost recreated all the card games he played back on the Blue Planet. These games made their usually boring life more fun. However, after 7 years, Armin once again ushered in his dragon sleep. He is about to enter a new dragon phase. This time, Shillong still didn't feel the urge to sleep. His dragon sleep didn't come this time. In the blue sky, a huge shadow traveled freely. His speed is extremely fast, leaving behind many sonic shockwaves due to his supersonic speed. He also left behind him a golden red trail, looking like a comet in the sky. On the ground below the shadow, a huge three-horned rhino, at least 4 meters high, was gnawing on the grass on the ground with its head down. Suddenly, feeling the change in pressure, it raised its head with a panicked look. It looked to the sky, only to see a huge shadow constantly expanding in front of it. Before it could respond, the huge shadow had already arrived. Boom! Along with the sound of the earth breaking, the rhino suffered from a huge impact. A huge claw about its size held its body. In just a moment, the three-horned rhino's consciousness dissipated. Its head was crushed, leaving its headless body lying powerlessly on the ground. Next to its body, there was an exaggeratedly big dragon. This dragon height alone is over 24 meters. This dragon is Shillong 7 years later. Viola is protecting the dormant Armin, and he is responsible for bringing food to her. He quickly picked up the corpse of the three-horned rhinoceros, turned it into a streamer, and headed back towards the cave. In less than a minute, Shillong returned to the cave. He stood on his 4 limbs in front of the cave and shouted, "Mom, I'm back." After a few seconds, Viola appeared at the entrance of the cave. She glanced at Shillong with a look of helplessness. This child's growth is more exaggerated than she expected. He is already bigger than her. Although she has also grown a little bit through these 7 years, this small growth is completely incomparable with Shillong. This child is already bigger than some of the older dragons, ones that are over 400 years old. The cave entrance that she built has become too small for him. Part 1. Chapter 15. Viola turned her attention to the food that Shillong brought and said with a smile, "Three-horned rhinos have tender and delicious belly meat and chewy thigh meat. It's one of my favorite foods." "As long as you like it, Mom," Shillong replied with a grin. "Well, I'll dig into it now." After Viola finished speaking, she carried the three-horned rhino into the cave, opened its belly, then started cleaning it with water magic. After which she divided the rhino into 2 parts, one with 2/3 for Shillong, and one with 1/3 for her. Viola pushed the bigger part of the rhino to Shillong, then used frost breath to freeze her part and started eating it elegantly. Shillong acted differently. He first cut off a tree, then lowered his head and slightly exhaled. A string of fiery red gas ejected from his nostrils, oxidizing with air and turning into a flame, then landing on the 3. Shillong then picked up his 2/3 of the rhino, then slowly grilled into on the flame. Shillong discovered a long time ago that grilled food tastes much better than frozen food. This taste preference might be due to his mutation. From that day on, Shillong trained his abilities in order to improve his control, solely to eat cooked food. The ability he just showed is the result of his training. Shillong had no control over his dragon breath before. Even if he tried to converge as much power as possible, he still ends up burning the land for 50 to 60 meters, completely turning it into a magma lake. After 2 or 3 months of training, Shillong could finally use his fire for cooking without turning his food into charcoal, or even eggs. After a few minutes, Viola and Shillong, mother and son, each finished eating. After that, Shillong said goodbye, then sprang into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. Viola looked helplessly at Shillong, who disappeared into the sky. This child had grown too big. As a result, he can't enter the cave she built before. Logically speaking, this kind of trivial matter shouldn't be trouble at all. A true dragon's inherited memory contains many spells, including transformation spells. Generally, true dragons can start using these spells after passing the baby dragon period. Armin could already use them 7 years ago, but could not, greatly puzzling Viola. As a result, Shillong couldn't enter his birthplace for 3 years now. Soaring a 1 kilometer above the ground, Shillong was already familiar with this island, but he still didn't think about leaving this island he is so familiar with. He is still vigilant about the unknown sea and continent. He finally reincarnated as a very promising true dragon. As long as he stays alive, he will eventually grow into a very powerful big boss. He has no reason to take risks now. All cliché stories start with the main character recklessly going out to the world while still weak, then get targeted by some sort of powerful individual or organization due to their great potential. Shillong prides himself that he will never fall for such a cliché. He will go out after growing powerful enough. After flying above this island for so many years, he has a great understanding about it. This is an uninhabited island full of exotic animals. Well, it should be, but Viola said that there might be a human mage hidden here, so it can't be called an uninhabited island anymore. The area of this island is not small. Its shape is oval, with the longest place from one point to the other being almost 15 kilometers. Its width is about 4 to 5 kilometers. Soaring over the island, Shillong felt like he was patrolling his territory. He leisurely observed the ant-sized plants and beasts on the ground. Suddenly, he saw an unusual scene. Through the cracks in the branches, deep in the forest, he saw a giant leopard stuck in a grid, struggling to free itself. Suddenly, a few ice cones flew from a hidden corner, landing straight on the leopard's belly. Hardly having any chance to struggle, the leopard was quickly poked to death. A few seconds later, a humanoid figure emerged from the forest, then started dismantling the grid, then took the body of the leopard away. Is this guy the last human that broke into the island? I didn't expect him to still stay here. Shillong looked at the scene below with a surprised look on his face. However, he was quite excited. He hadn't seen a human for 17 years now. Roar! Boom! Along with a roar piercing the sky, Shillong turned into a golden-red streamer and dived straight towards the mage. The violent sonic boom swept the sky. Shillong got closer and closer to the ground. It wasn't until he was about 300 meters away from the ground that he tucked his wings and stopped emitting the golden-red flames behind him. Boom! A huge and deep hole was instantly created about 100 meters away from the humanoid creature. The ground was shaken violently by the impact, causing the old Mage Jones, who was about to drag the leopard away, to fall on the ground due to the shock. What followed was the huge wind pressure brought by collision. The nearby plants and trees violently shook due to the huge wind pressure. However, Jones was directly blown by the wind pressure. He flew for more than 10 meters before colliding with a tree and falling to the ground. He could barely hold himself from flying away. The trees near the collision area were messed up, a lot had their leaves blown up, and some even directly fell on the ground. The old Mage Jones didn't pay attention to this, though. Shillong's giant figure still lying in the middle of the crater occupied his entire mind now. Jones swore that even with all his knowledge and experience, he had never seen such a huge monster. From its appearance and shape alone, it should be a true dragon, but its appearance is very different from both the Feist-color Evil Dragon Clan and the Metal Dragon Clan. Jones has no idea about what kind of dragon this is, but its size and the aura it's emitting caused him to feel cold from head to toe. This is definitely an opponent far beyond his capabilities. If he dares to attack it, he will undoubtedly die. Suppressing the horror in his heart, Jones forced his trembling body to calm down, struggled to stand up, then bowed to Shillong and said, Your Excellency, great true dragon, the magician Jones salutes you. For a master mage who has rich knowledge and understands true dragons, he knows they are superior creatures with extremely high wisdom and power. Mages are always full of desire and respect for power. Are you the mage who entered this island 10 years ago? Shillong asked, staring at old Jones with his piercing golden eyes. His voice isn't as immature as Armin, but rather thick and heavy, just like the voice of a young adult. Yes, Your Excellency. However, they are my companions. We just happened to get teleported to this island together. Please forgive my uninvited entrance. Joan's wrinkled face had a look of guilt. The two guys who came with you are dead. They committed a big crime, killing two of my younger siblings, Shillong said indifferently. It's really a shame. Since these two guys have done such a thing, they deserve to be killed by you. You know that these two guys died a long time ago, right? Yes, I have lived on this island for 10 years and I have never met them again. A full 10 years. Yet you're still here. Aren't you a mage? Why are you still here? Are you waiting for death or what? My mother has already told me about how to deal with intruders like you. I can directly kill you if I want. Shillong couldn't understand the thought process of this guy. How dare he still live on this island knowing that there are adult true dragons on it? Does he think that he is strong enough to compete with an adult dragon?
Loving the audiobooks? Your support on Patreon helps me keep them coming. Check out the link in the description. A huge thank you for your support. Now, let's dive into the next chapter.
Part 1. Chapter 16. Have I offended you, Your Excellency? Since I came to this island, I have never done anything evil. Besides, it's not that I don't want to leave this island. In fact, I've always been hoping to leave. It's just that the island is surrounded by the sea, and I don't know how far away it's from the continent, so I don't dare to leave. Jones explained nervously. The other two humans were able to reach this island due to you. If you didn't bring them, my younger siblings wouldn't have died. However, I didn't expect mages to be so weak. You don't even have the ability to leave this island. Are all other mages as weak as you? There was a hint of disdain in the corner of Shillong's eyes. Unexpectedly, the mages he was so curious about turned out to be so weak. He even used such a trap to kill a 2 meters long leopard, one of the weakest creatures on this island. To deal with this level of creatures, shouldn't the mysterious mages use a random spell to instantly obliterate them? He actually used traps? I never thought that mages are actually this weak. Even Armin just needs a slap to kill that leopard. Shillong thought inwardly. However, he actually wronged Jones. Shillong's cognition is actually because of his ignorance of the world. In this world, mages need to reach the magic master level in order to casually fight using spells. Most spells need quite a lot of time to use, so weaker mages either use magic scrolls to buy themselves time or bring warriors with them as guards. Most mages aren't very effective in one-to-one fights. They are a profession that needs to rely on groups and environmental intelligence to defeat their enemies. Their advantage lies in their diverse magic and high destructive power. Mages have the highest destructive ability and versatility out of all professions, but they have a plethora of disadvantages. Before reaching the magic master rank, magic chants are their fatal weakness. High-level warriors won't give them time to cast magic. Weak. Jones heard Shillong's evaluation and really wanted to fight with him immediately. He really wished to show this ignorant guy the weakness of mages, but he didn't dare. His face was flushed red, but he still restrained himself and said through gritted teeth, "Compared to true dragons, I might be a little weak, but in human society, I am already a master-level mage, enough to enjoy a noble-level treatment. It turns out that humans in this world are so weak." Shillong sighed and said, Shillong is glad that he was reincarnated as a dragon. If he was reincarnated as a normal human, then with his lazy character, not to mention becoming a powerful warrior, he must just become cannon fodder. Even if he tries hard to become stronger, he might just end up as a weak chicken like this old man. Your Excellency, we humans are not weak. The outside world is almost entirely dominated by humans. Our human kingdoms have hundreds of millions of people and millions of soldiers. We might be weak individually, but banding together, no creature dares to cross our path. Not to mention that we have our own legendary level powerhouses. The old mage angrily retorted. Oh, it doesn't matter. My mother asked me to kill you if I find you, but you know what? I actually don't want to kill you. Shillong stared at Jones and said, Thank you for your kindness. You must be a benevolent dragon with a clear distinction between good and evil, so you won't attack innocent people like me. Jones breathed a sigh of relief and quickly started flattering the dragon in front of him. If this dragon really wants to kill him, he doesn't have the ability to resist. By the way, you said that you are a master magician, so you should be considered powerful among humans, right? It's not that I'm bragging. Before I came here, I was the chief magician of the Earl. I still have some reputation in the magic world. Jones gently stroked his goatee, somewhat proud. That's good, although I still think that your strength is somewhat low, but depending on your age, since your strength is good among humans, you must have rich experience. I have a question for you now. Jones felt his brows twitching every time Shillong said that he was weak. He wanted to refute every time, but he still held himself in the end. Your Excellency, ask whatever you want. I will tell you everything I know. Do you know? Silver dragons have inherited memories from the moment they are born. These memories contain very rich magical knowledge. This knowledge should be like an instinct. all dragons should automatically master it upon reaching a certain age, but my case seems to be different. Shillong said with a look of distress. I'm unable to use the spells in my memory at all. Don't talk about water and ice spells. I can't even use simple spells like the Mage Hand and the Transformation spell. He took a deep breath and continued to describe his situation. It's a pity that he can't use water and ice spells, but they're not necessary. The most important thing is the Transformation spell. When he travels to the continent in the future, he can't always stay in this form. That will be too intimidating and condescending. Not to mention the trouble this will bring him. It won't be easy to communicate with humans, elves, and other intelligent races. What if he encounters some lunatic looking for the honor of slaying a dragon? Only by mastering the transformation ability will he be able to confidently walk all over the main continents. Your Excellency. After hearing Shillong's words, Jones said with a dazed look on his face. I didn't hear it wrong, did I? You're a silver dragon? Yes, my mother is a silver dragon. What about your father? Your appearance should be inherited from your father, right? You should have also got the inherited memories from his clan, not the Silver Dragon clan? Jones looked puzzled. My father is also a silver dragon. Although I haven't seen him, that's what my mother said. Are you sure your mother didn't joke with you? My younger brothers and sisters are all silver dragons. My mother said that I am a mutant dragon. Do you know mutant dragons? Mutant dragon? I have heard of this term before, but didn't understand it at the time. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to discuss with you the particularity of my race, but my inability to use spells. Okay, Your Excellency, Jones said respectfully. To be honest, I've been studying magic for over 50 years. I probably understand your problem. Looking at your fiery breath, and the heat your body is releasing, your dragon breath type should be fire. Yes, Shillong nodded. You aren't a normal fire-type creature. The concentration of fire element in your body should exceed 90%. Jones stroked his silver goatee. You should know this, but I will go over it once. Magic is divided into 5 main elements: wind, thunder, water, fire, and earth. All living creatures, with few exceptions of course, like the elemental family, will have a certain concentration of these 5 elemental attributes in their body. The amount and concentration of these elements in each living creature's body affect the casting process. I know that the main attribute of the Silver Dragon clan is ice, which is a subcategory of the water attribute. The ice attribute in a silver dragon's body accounts for more than 90%. You got the inheritance memory of the Silver Dragon clan, which is very different from your own natural element. Naturally, trying to use a spell from the ice system won't work or even cause a conflict with the fire element in your body. The problem that bothered me for so long turned out to have such a simple answer. Shillong was very surprised and speechless. Such a simple problem, and Mom couldn't even find it. Even a weak human mage could answer it. TSA, I have to tell her to go out more? Jones. After staring at Shillong silently for a long time, Jones took a breath and barely managed to hold the insult that almost slipped from his mouth. Your Excellency, although you and your mother are powerful true dragons, it's because of your inherently high strength that you have no desire to learn. We, humans, love learning because of our natural weakness. We have gained enough knowledge in the process of learning. When it comes to magical knowledge, I think I know more than your mother. Part 1. Chapter 17. Jones had a confident expression while saying this. In terms of magic knowledge alone, he who has dedicated all his life to magic doesn't think that he is worse than anyone. Oh, so what should I do in order to use the transformation spell? Shillong asked seriously. Jones pondered for a moment, then replied. The energy of the water element is stable and gentle. Life forms based on it need just a small amount of magic power in order to use spells. On the other hand, the energy of the fire element is extremely violent and chaotic, so the amount of magic power required to use the same spell is much greater. Of course, the resulting power is very different. The process of using magic and casting spells begins with magicians using spiritual energy and communicating with a magic net, then constructing spells diagrams and releasing magic. This whole process can take a long time, but the magic net omits a lot of steps, and the addition of the chant makes it even easier and quicker. However, different creatures have different types of energy inside their bodies. Hence, the process of using magic is different for every individual. The magic net is composed of more than 36,000 magic nodes. Only more than 5,000 of these magic nodes are commonly used, with each one having similar but different functions. In order to cast the transformation spell, magic should be injected respectively into nodes 3, 8, 19, 109, 1135. Of course, this is a node used by ordinary magicians. Energy beings with 90% concentrated elements like you should have a different cast process. Can you tell me the nodes mentioned in your inherited memory? Sure. Shillong naturally agreed. This type of knowledge isn't really a big secret. Not to mention that even if he knew it, he won't be able to use it. 3, 7, 17, 107, 1132. These are the magic nodes of the transformation spell in my memory. I see. Jones nodded. He then started pondering again, calculating and deducing the different magic nodes, then combining them in different patterns. After a while, Jones suddenly said, "You can try passing magic through these nodes 3, 9, 19, 109, 1137. Shillong nodded. The fire magic in his body suddenly started to boil. His consciousness connected to the omnipresent magic net of the physical world. The world magic net is like a huge spider web, and each node is the so-called magic node. These nodes are colorful holes. Whenever spiritual energy is poured into them, these holes will produce some magical substances. When these substances are combined with the caster's own magic in a specific order, a spell will be cast." Shillong's spiritual energy was very quickly injected into the magic net. He injected the 5 nodes almost at the same time. Immediately afterward, the magic nodes released a strange substance into Shillong's body, combining with his own fire magic and producing an unknown change. However, this change quickly disappeared. Nothing happened afterward. Shillong and Jones just watched each other with 2 big eyes and 2 small eyes, a breeze passing between them. Shillong watched Jones silently. Jones nervously wiped the sweat on his forehead and tried to ease the atmosphere with a dry laugh. "Your Excellency, trials are always accompanied by failure. This is just the first attempt. Please give me more opportunities." "Yes, I'll give you 10 chances. If it still doesn't work after the 10th attempt, it means that you aren't as good as you proclaim. At that time, I'll pinch you to death," Shillong said indifferently. 10 times? Good. It's more than enough. Afterward, Jones asked Shillong to use different nodes combination, one trial after the other. After each failure, Jones will stop to think for several minutes before continuing. This situation continued until the 7th trial. Suddenly, a fire-red hue appeared on Shillong's head. This time it didn't disappear, but quickly spread over his entire body. A magical thought suddenly appeared in his mind. It's amazing. He clearly understood the effect of this spell. It's a transformation spell. Many races appeared in his mind. Whether it's humans, elves, dwarves, or even trolls, he had many arrays of choices in his mind. Without giving it much thought, Shillong chose the human race. His figure suddenly started to deform and shrink. After a while, the extremely large dragon disappeared, replaced by a human boy. No, saying that he is a boy is over-exaggeration. He can only be called a child. His appearance was that of a 3 or 4 years old human child, with red golden hair extending over his shoulder and an exposed white body. The boy had a serious expression on his soft, cute face, silently looking at Jones not far away. Feeling a strange feeling exuded from his body, the child, that is, Shillong looked at Jones with a weird expression. He said with a soft, milky voice, "Is my transformation successful?" "Yes, Your Excellency. Very successful," Jones replied excitedly. Shillong looked pleasantly surprised. He suddenly noticed that Jones' wrinkled face had a shocked look, then started to visibly turn red. His shoulders twitched from time to time, visibly holding something back. Shock and surprise are understandable. After all, anyone that saw a hill-sized dragon turns into a small human would be shocked. But why does this old guy look like he's struggling to hold his laughter back? "Are you holding your laughter back?" Shillong asked with a puzzled look on his face. "No, of course not," Jones said with a muffled voice. His shoulders are still twitching. "Is my appearance weird? I chose the human template. Did something strange go during the transformation process?" No, you have become a complete human being." Jones held back his laughter and said with a tone full of affirmation. "Then what's the matter with you?" Shillong frowned. He crossed his hands around his chest, making him look very adorable and strangely funny. "No, nothing." Shillong looked at the red-faced Jones silently. After a long time, a breeze blew by, and Shillong felt something on his lower body sway uncontrollably. Slowly looking down, Shillong finally figured out why this old bastard acted so strangely. "I'm naked. Bastard. So that's what happened. But why don't I have any clothes after transforming?" Obviously, Mother had clothes when she transformed back then. With his hands behind his back, Shillong held in his embarrassment and said expressionlessly, "What's the matter? I have seen my mother use transformation before, and she had clothing on her body when she transformed. That must be because she had a space ring. She could have quickly taken her clothes and worn them while deforming." Jones replied without thinking. But after saying that, Jones suddenly froze. He said with a look of amazement, "Don't you have such a space ring?" "I don't have it. A dragon of your caliber doesn't have a space ring? This is really surprising. Although space rings are very precious. Even I don't have one, but it shouldn't be something difficult for a dragon as powerful as you to get." "I will get one later on," Shillong replied while keeping his eyes on Jones. Why do this old guy's eyes keep wandering to the area between his legs? Is he a pervert? A pedophile? Snorting coldly, Shillong walked forward with his short legs, walking to a giant tree on the side, then striking it with his small hand. The whole tree shook violently. Jones! Shillong! Jones thought that Shillong was angry because of his impolite sight, so he quickly said with a look of panic, "Your Excellency, I'm really sorry. Next time I won't dare to look around." Shillong glared at him, then ignored him and continued striking the tree with his arm. Crack! This time, he used more power, so the tree broke and fell to the side. Jones shrank his head upon hearing this noise. Shillong looked at the fallen tree, then back at his hand, and thought internally, "My strength has become a lot weaker. I used almost 80% of my strength to break this tree. This is ridiculous. In my dragon form, I don't even need 1/10 of that to break a tree of this size. After transformation, my strength was reduced by almost 90%. It's no wonder that Mom rarely uses this transformation spell. Even other dragons are the same. This spell suppresses our strength too much." Part 1. Chapter 18. It's really troublesome, Shillong muttered, then turned his head and said to Jones, "Old guy, although your strength is very low, I approve of your wisdom. You have the value of survival. Thank you for your approval." Jones finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's go to your residence. I want to ask you more things. Why are you standing there in a daze? Lead the way." "Ah, yes, yes." Jones quickly nodded, then started walking forward. Shillong followed behind him, not caring about his unclothed body. Anyway, this old man has already seen it, so he doesn't really care. Not to mention that there are no other people on the island, so it doesn't matter if he stays naked. Along the way, both of them remained silent. After walking for a while, Jones suddenly said, "Your Excellency, I heard that when non-human higher species turns into a form reflecting their true age when they first use the transformation spell. Is this true?" This problem has been bothering him since Shillong transformed. The child behind him is extremely small. If what he learned before is indeed true, then why is the human form of such a giant dragon so small? It should be correct. The knowledge in my inherited memory says something similar to what you said. Why are you asking? Shillong followed behind Jones. His small cute feet stepped on the ground full of debris and sharp stones. The debris and stones can't bring him discomfort at all, let alone injure him. Even if he transforms into a human form, his essence is still that of a dragon. His skin might look delicate and tender at first glance, but it's actually as though as steel. I'll take the liberty to ask, how old are you, Your Excellency? The old mage used his cane to push a fallen branch in front of him while asking. This year, I should be about 17 years old, Shillong replied after a moment of silence. Say, 17? Jones suddenly paused and looked back. His eyes looked like they were about to pop out. Is there something wrong? Shillong looked at the shocked Jones and asked with a puzzled look on his face. Your Excellency, I saw your true body before. Your size isn't something that a young dragon should have. That's the size of old dragons. Are you sure you aren't around 300 or 400 years old? Jones said cautiously. You seem to know our dragon clan very well. Shillong smiled and said, Your Excellency, as a magician who is always seeking knowledge, I am very interested in unknown and rare knowledge, especially about the dragon race. I have read many classics about them. Then you must know the difference between a genius and a normal person? Just like you humans, a genius mage at your age might have already become a famous powerhouse across the continent, maybe even a legendary powerhouse, but an average person or even an idiot might remain as an unknown pawn. Shillong said with a smirk on his face. Seeing the smile on Shillong's face, Jones felt that this unknown pawn might be a reference to himself, this stupid dragon. He doesn't understand the greatness of a master mage at all. A master mage is a great scholar. 1,000 mages might not even have a single master mage amongst them. These big lizards who rely on their bloodline power don't understand magic at all. Jones roared and cursed internally, but he kept a calm look on his face. He still wants to live for longer. It took him a while to compose himself and restore his smile. Your Excellency is indeed a genius among dragons. You have shown the charm of the dragon god at such a young age. Your power and greatness broke my shallow and blind cognition. I feel that I have taken a step further on the road of knowledge. Puff ha ha ha. Shillong laughed loudly upon hearing these words. I didn't expect that an old man like you to be so good at flattering and fawning. It's so good, I like it. Jones coughed with an embarrassed look on his face, then continued to say with a serious look. You are wrong, Your Excellency. Every word of mine is the truth from the depth of my heart. It's not flattering at all. Yeah, I believe you. Shillong just smiled, but didn't continue on this topic. The silence was restored again between the two. They continued walking for a while before reaching a cave. The cave was surrounded by turquoise vines. Jones used his staff to push the vines away, then walked inside. Shillong followed closely behind. Due to a lack of sunshine, the cave is very dark. Jones walked to the sidewall of the cave and then started chanting. A second later, a small fireball appeared on top of his staff. Jones raised his staff slightly and lit up the oil lamp on the wall. Shillong's nose is very sensitive. He smelled a slight fishy smell from that lamp. The grease in that oil lamp should be made of a beast that Jones killed. They continued to walk forward for a while before reaching the end of the cave. Jones lit up all the lamps on the way. The cave became much brighter. Piles of debris are randomly thrown on the ground. There are a few big rocks in an open space, and a small creature is lying on them. This creature is just hand-sized. Its appearance is very similar to that of a true dragon, but it's much chubbier and cuter, almost like an animated version. It curiously stared at Shillong with its big eyes. Seeing his golden eyes with shiny particles floating in them, it stepped back in fear. "I'm back, Bashi." Jones smiled after seeing the small creature. "Welcome back, Jones. You came back early today. Who is that human child next to you?" The aura he exudes is terrifying. I felt my body becoming soft just staring at him. The little creature stared at Shillong and said. His voice is crisp, like that of a child. "He is the true dragon living on this island," Jones replied. "True dragon?" The little creature was taken aback. He suddenly jumped back onto an animal skin roll in the corner, then said in horror, "A dragon? Jones, are you coerced?" "Oh no, Packy, calm down. I'm not being coerced or anything. This dragon lord is a good dragon with a clear distinction between good and evil," Jones said against his will. "Hi, little stuff. My name is Shillong," Shillong said to the tiny dragon-like creature with a smile on his face. "Hello, Shillong, I'm Bashi, and I'm not happy to see you." Bashi was still a little wary. Shillong didn't care about the rudeness of this adorable creature. He was very curious about it, so he asked Jones, "What kind of creature is this little guy? He looks very interesting." "Your Excellency, this is a spirit dragon." Due to its appearance, the dragon word was added to its name. However, they are extremely small and have low combat power, so they are classified as a kind of spirit. Bashi is a high-level spirit dragon, with a lot of curiosity and an extreme desire for knowledge. Furthermore, their wisdom is not less than that of humans. They are magician's favorite partner, and also my partner. "Research? Did you just say your research? What are you researching?" Shillong's attention was suddenly attracted to something else. This kind of guy who is dressed like the average peasant in the Western Middle Ages also knows how to study. What study is he conducting? Shillong was a little curious. Of course it's magic. Magic is the foundation of this world, and everything in the world cannot be separated from magic. Magic props and items have changed the whole world. My identity isn't just that of a master magician. I am also an alchemist. I have invented many things before. Jones' expression was filled with excitement and passion. Part 1. Chapter 19. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of applause rang through the cave. Shillong kept clapping with an impressed look on his face. "Yes, it's amazing. Can you show me what you are researching?" "Of course, yes." Jones hesitated for a moment before agreeing. He walked to the corner of the cave and pulled out a wooden box from a hole in the wall. Then opened it, revealing what's inside. It's all pills. Taking out one of the light blue ones, Jones introduced it excitedly. "Your Excellency, this is the Jingy pill." "What's its effect?" "I'll show you now, Your Excellency." After Jones said that, he took off his robe and spread it on the rocks in the middle, then crushed the pill and spread it evenly on the robe. The blue powder immediately turned into a pool of blue water after touching the robe, then quickly evaporated. While evaporating, the dust and dirt on the robe were also dragged with the steam up. In just a few seconds, Jones' robe became completely new. He shook his robe, put it on again, and said, "I have been trapped on this island for 10 years with only this piece of clothing, so in order to not become a savage, I developed this Jingy pill. Its effect isn't bad, right?" "Yes, very interesting," Shillong said with wide eyes. "Do objects with the same function as your pill exist in the outside world?" "There are similar objects, but their effect is far from my Jingy pill," Jones replied. Not bad. If I go to your human world and use your method to mass-produce these Jingy pills, I should be able to make a lot of gold coins, right?" Shillong asked curiously. Although he isn't as obsessed with money as other dragons, he still feels that having more money is good. The social model of the Metal Dragon clan is similar to that of human beings. They also use gold and silver coins in their respective transactions. After all, they aren't unreasonable robbers like the dragons from the five-color evil dragon clan. Money is not omnipotent, but nothing can be done without money. The same principle applies for the Silver Dragon clan. "This, I'm afraid it won't work," Jones said hesitantly. Why?" "Because of the high difficulty of production. Jingy pills are very hard to produce. If there's not a master-level mage as a supervisor, then there's no way to produce Jingy pills, and master mages usually disdain to do such a low-level task." "Tsh, that's boring. Do you have anything else? Shillong curled his mouth in disdain. Of course, Jones said, then took out a light pink pill and described its function. Your Excellency, this is a satiety pill. It's necessary for travel. Just a single pill is enough to fill your stomach. Shillong sniffed a bit and actually smelled the scent of meat from that pill. Jones, my stomach is empty. The spirit dragon Pashi, who had been looking from the side, anxiously said. Here you go. Jones threw the satiety pill, and Pashi jumped up to catch it. After landing, he chewed the pill in his mouth with a look of satisfaction. Satiety pills can not only fill your stomach, but also have a very strong taste. The taste of meat burst out with the first bite, stimulating your taste buds and giving you the illusion of eating top-grade beef. It's the favorite of my spirit dragon. Do you want to try it? At the end of his description, Jones took out another satiety pill. Shillong looked at it curiously, then took it from the hands of Jones, put it in his mouth, and chewed slightly. With just the first bite, a strong meat taste broke out. He even felt an underlying fresh and spicy taste. The texture is also surprisingly soft and juicy. It's even better than the Wagyu beef he ate in his last life. Nodding in approval, Shillong said, It tastes good, but what's the matter with that spicy flavor? It shouldn't be the taste of the meat itself? Of course not. These flavors came from the pepper flour and fragrant vanilla flour. I'll mix them together to make these satiety pills. Jones said with a look of pride. Does this already exist in your human world? Yes, I recreated it since Pachi likes it. Is there anything else? Of course there is. Shillong listened to Jones' introduction for a long time. His creations were all pills, and they all already exist in the outside world, where there are other objects with similar functions. After showing him everything he created, there wasn't anything groundbreaking or new. There wasn't even a single novel prop. Are there any novel props? Are you sure you're an alchemist, not a copycat? Shillong asked silently. Your Excellency, I'm really an alchemist. It's just that with the simple conditions here, with no equipment and personal laboratory, it's very hard to create some novel props. Oh, don't worry. I recognize your ability. I won't beat around the bush. Please teach me your magic and all you know. Shillong said with a serious look on his face. It's okay, but learning magic is not a simple matter. The reason you were able to easily lean the transformation speed is due to your inherited memories. If a spell isn't included in your inherited memories, learning it will be much more difficult. Jones reminded. It's okay. I'm idle anyway. I have a lot of free time now, Shillong said with a smile. After that, Jones started to teach magic spells to Shillong. The first spells that he is planning to teach him are naturally fire spells fitting his natural attribute. They naturally have to start from the basics, from the low-level spells to the high-level ones. Jones first taught Shillong a level 1 spell's firework. Using this spell results in a small flame, which is usually used to illuminate dark places. It has basically no destructive power. Shillong followed Jones's teachings and succeeded in using firework after just 2 tries. This learning speed is much faster than what Jones expected. After using this firework spell, a palm-sized orange-red flame appeared on Shillong's palm. Its temperature is very low, lower than even that of a stove. Shillong threw it on a rock, but nothing happened to the rock. The flame was also instantly extinguished. There wasn't even a black mark left. It is no different from an ordinary firework. This obviously can't satisfy Shillong. As a powerful dragon, how can his spell be so weak? He cast the spell again, but this time, he kept increasing the output of magic power. The fireworks became bigger and bigger in his palm, quickly reaching the size of a football. Seeing this, Jones was a little frightened. He begged Shillong to experiment outside, for fear of him breaking his cave. Shillong agreed and walked out of the cave. Pachi followed behind him. When he came outside, Shillong continued to increase the output of magic power. But after the firework reached a certain size, it dissipated again. In this regard, Shillong tried many times after that, but the firework couldn't continue growing past that point. That's the limit of the firework spell. Its limit is only about 1 meter in diameter and barely hot temperature. Shillong tried to throw it on a tree after it reached its limits. After the collision, the flame went out. It didn't destroy or even burn the tree, just barely left a burnt mark on it. Spells have limits, especially basic spells like firework. No matter how much magic power is poured into it, the spell still doesn't have any destructive power. This is the limit of the spell that no creature can surpass. This also might be the reason why magicians also tirelessly researching new spells. Shillong thought that just like those novels in his past life, he will be able to raise the power of a basic spell to the level of a legendary one by constantly increasing the output of magic. However, he didn't expect that this is basically impossible, although the energy in his body is extremely destructive fire energy. Furthermore, he is a special energy life form with more than 90% of his energy being a single element. This still doesn't majorly affect the power of the spells he uses. All spells have a low and high limit, and no creature can exceed it. The only things that his energy greatly affects are his natural talents, like dragon breath. Although he was a bit disappointed, Shillong still quickly focused back on learning spells with Jones. After that, Shillong once again learned 2 levels 2 spells, Flame Rays and Target Combustion. This Flame Ray is basically shooting a fire jet from his arm. Using the basic form of this spell on a tree resulted in it getting ignited in about 3 seconds. Using this spell on a human without armor can also result in considerable damage. Part 2. Increasing the magic output of Flame Ray to the maximum results in a super fast flame jet, about half a meter thick, and one that can burn a whole tree in less than a second. As for Targeted Combustion, this is basically a lock-type spell. After selecting a target, one can use this spell to create fire around the target. The higher the mana output, the higher the temperature of the flame, and the wider its range. Part 1. Chapter 20. Shillong's learning speed is quite high. In just a single night, he managed to learn 3 spells. In fact, he could have learned even more spells, but after learning a spell, he likes to experiment and determine its lower and higher limit, hence delaying learning other spells. However, learning 3 spells a day is still extremely fast. This is based on Jones' human thinking. The biggest problem for humans while learning magic is their own magic power. Every time after learning spells corresponding to their level, the number of times they can use it before their mana runs out is limited. In fact, most magicians can only release 1 or 2 spells at their levels before their magic and spiritual energy runs out, rendering them weak and defenseless. It often takes hours, even up to a day, to restore the lost magic power. The lost spiritual energy can usually be restored by sleep or meditation. All of this leads to the efficiency of humans learning magic being very low. Shillong had no worries in this regard at all. His mana reserves are extremely huge, enough for him to squander freely without even considering this problem. Even if he uses level 1 and 2 magic all day long, this still won't leave even a dent in his monstrous magic energy reserves. At night, he stopped learning because Jones needed to rest. Shillong thought that as a good dragon, he must not force Jones to teach him magic all day long without sleep. So while the other party was resting, Shillong flew back to his usual sleeping spot and went back to sleep. The next morning, Shillong first hunted food for him and his mother. He brought food back to the cave and put the prey on the entrance. Soon after, Viola's figure slowly appeared out of the cave. Seeing Viola, Shillong immediately used the transformation spell and under her surprised eyes, transformed into a small child. "Baby, how did you do it?" Viola said with an overjoyed and excited look on her face, almost jumping up due to joy. Her huge body quickly shrank and transformed into a beautiful silver-haired elf. She quickly ran towards Shillong, picked him up, and circled around. "How, my little baby? Mom can finally hug you again." Viola has no idea what was the last time she hugged Shillong. The growth speed of this child is amazing and scary. In addition, she knew very well that Shillong was a magically incompetent dragon before. He couldn't use any magic in his inherited memory. "Mom, I'm at the mage you mentioned before," Shillong said with a smile on his face. The look of joy on Viola's face suddenly solidified. After a moment of silence, she slowly said, "Did you kill him?" "No, Mom. I don't think that the death of my younger siblings has much to do with him. Didn't you teach me that as good metal dragons, we can't kill innocent people? I consider that old man to be mostly innocent." Viola was silent. In fact, she also knew that the death of the 2 wyverns can't be blamed on the old mage. After all, except for bringing the other 2 humans here while escaping, he did nothing. He didn't help the 2 wicked humans attack and kill her children, nor was he greedy for her treasures. As a true dragon, she can see the exact amount of treasures in the cave at a single glance. There wasn't a single gold or silver coin missing. The words she uttered 10 years ago were mostly due to her rage and sadness. Now, after 10 years, witnessing her 2 children grow happily and healthily, the rage and sadness she felt have mostly dissipated. Shillong's kind words made her finally dissipate the last bit of hostility she felt towards that mage. A smile gradually appeared on her face. Viola regained her previous cheerful mood. She happily said, "I'm very happy that my little Shillong can remember his mother's teaching. What you said makes sense. Your mother won't hate the human mage anymore. The most important thing is that he taught my precious baby the transformation spell. I can finally hold my baby son again." Shillong was relieved after hearing Viola's words. He can finally rest assured to learn magic. After the mother and son had eaten, Viola returned to the cave. Even if that mage had been found, she still didn't want to leave her cave. Who knows if some other humans will be teleported to this place again. A tragedy happened once, and she doesn't want it to happen again, especially to her baby Armin. Shillong flew to Jones's cave to learn magic again. He learned 4 fire spells today. Among them is the famous attack spell, Fireball, defensive magic, the Wall of Fire, and the area of control magic, Ring of Fire, etc. Shillong still had no difficulty in learning spells. In the following days, he still continued to learn new spells. For the fire spell curriculum, Shillong learned all spells Jones knew up to level 5. These were all magic spells Jones knew and mastered. According to Jones, mages are divided into levels from 1 to 20. Those at level 1 to 2 are magic apprentices. Apprentices are usually mages that contacted magic for just a short time. They can usually use just level 1 spells, and their combat power is extremely low. In fact, their frontal combat power might not even be equal to that of an ordinary person. Mages from levels 3 to 5 are official mages, generally mastering spells from levels 1 to 3. They already possess certain combat power, and they are usually used as the mainstay in the army. Mages from level 6 to 9 are senior mages. Mages at this level already have the qualifications to gather apprentices and teach them magic. They can usually use magic from level 1 to 4, and they can act as a magic squadron leaders. Mages from levels 10 to 15 are usually referred to as master mages. This is the level of Jones. Mages of this level are also sometimes referred to as quasi-archmage. They can already act as the head of mid to high-level nobles magic division. Magic masters usually master magic from level 1 to level 6. Mages from 16 to 19 are respectfully referred to as the archmages. People of this level can already create a famous magic academy. They are national celebrities, and their power is already powerful enough to contend with adult dragons and other higher races. Archmages usually master spells from level 1 to level 8. For those that reach level 20 and above, they are no longer measured by numbers or levels, but are collectively called legends. People of the legendary level. People of this level are already famous throughout the entire continent and across countless kingdoms. Their fame is no less than that of the kind of a country, and each one will be recorded in history. They were legends when they were alive, and they become an epic when they die. Everyone will remember their names. They can use spells of the 9th levels and above. Level 9 spells are also called legendary spells. Each spell has an incredible effect. They can even change the terrain of a country, stop time, or bring back the dead. Spells of that level already have a hint of law in them. Jones is a 12th level master mage. He has only mastered spells up to level 5. After understanding mages and the general combat power of the creatures across the world, Shillong was a bit disdainful. A 12th level master mage is no different from an ant in his eyes. What would be his level then? He isn't sure. Maybe it's the legendary level that Jones described? However, the strength of humans has never been in their individual power, but in their collectiveness, massive power, and technology. There is an alternative to science in this world. That is alchemy. He isn't sure what type of weapons they might have created, so Shillong is still cautious about the humans in this world. He must still act cautiously until he gets a gauge of the strength of the people in this world. There is hope as long as he lives, cautious until the end. After learning all fire-type spells, Shillong started learning spells of other attributes. But the difficulty of learning spells of other attributes was beyond Shillong's imagination. He can no longer casually learn several spells every day like before. Now, sometimes he can't even learn a spell a day, and even if managed to learn it, the destructive power of that spell will be weaker than even ordinary people. This all due to the fact that Shillong's body is filled with over 90% fire attribute magic power. Part 2. Although there is the trait of not being able to learn spells of other attributes, and even if learn them, their power is severely affected, the advantage is that fire spells in his hand are much stronger than normal people even if he only uses them with the lower limit of magic. For example, he can use a level 3 fireball spell to exert power much higher than that of level 4 spells, even approaching the power of level 5 spells. Level 5 spells in his hand already have a power close to that of level 7 spells. However, this is still meaningless to Shillong. His dragon breath's power is miles greater than these spells. Even if he suppresses himself as much as possible and use the weakest dragon breath he could use, its power is still much greater than his most powerful level 5 spell. Therefore, Shillong's evaluation of these spells is that they might be useful in daily life. In some unexpected situations, they still aren't very useful in combat. Part 1. Chapter 21. Due to the slow progress in learning other spells, Shillong could only give up after barely learning a level 1 spell in 3 days. Instead, he started learning arcane magic. Arcane and traditional elemental spells are fundamentally different. Arcane can be divided into many categories. There is the Guardian system, spell system, necromancer system, prophecy system, enchantment system, illusion system, etc. This profession is also counted as a subdivision of the magician profession. Mages who specialize in this subdivision are called the arcane wizards. Arcane is much more difficult to learn than elemental spells, so generally speaking, there might not be a single arcanist amongst 10 mages. Common mages generally only dabble in arcane magic. They usually are far from being proficient. Jones, for example, is a level 12 elemental mage, but only a level 4 arcane wizard. The difference between the two professions is so huge, mainly due to 2 points. One is that Jones mostly focused on learning elemental spells, and the other is that arcane magic is very difficult to learn. Shillong's progress in learning arcane spells is actually slower than non-fire attribute elemental spells, but arcane spells are more useful for him than the elemental spells who specialize in destruction. Although he is a level 4 arcanist, Jones was unable to raise all subdivisions of the arcane arts to level 4. He was able to do so to a few of them. Among them, enchantment, necromancy, and incantation are the only subdivision he managed to raise to level 4. Shillong started to absorb all the knowledge Jones was able to offer. His learning progress is very slow, usually taking him 5 to 6 days to learn a single arcane spell. This slow but steady progress continued until 2 years later, when Shillong finally learned all the spells that Jones knew. After learning everything he has to offer, Shillong expressed his gratitude to Jones, then stopped going there daily. Apart from the occasional visit, he stopped bothering the old guy from research spells and other things. 1 year later, Armin finally woke up. The 20 years old Armin is about 4 meters high, the average size of all silver dragons his age. Shillong is already 27 to 28 meters high. Such size is completely ridiculous for dragons of his age. Both of Shillong and Armin are 20 years old now. On this day, the two dragons played the card game, Solitaire, invented by Shillong before. Because they didn't place any bet, the two dragons played casually. Armin used his slender claws to drag a card, then raised his head and said to Shillong with a frustrated look on his face, "Shillong, you are such a coward. With such a huge size, you still don't dare to go out of the island. I really want to go out? Then earn my own treasures. It's a pity that Mom won't let me out. Safety first, understand?" Shillong took a glance at the extremely small Armin, then threw a card on the ground and said, "Don't think about going out, kid. With your strength, maybe you will be captured and killed by humans the moment you go out. Mom will be very sad by then." "Bo, you are obviously timid," Armin said with a look of disdain. "How can humans be so strong? They are obviously a group of weak and inferior creatures." The great Armin won't lose to such weak creatures. His inherited memory tells him that dragons are the strongest creatures in the world. A true dragon is fearless. A kid like you doesn't understand the danger of outside at all. The old man who taught me spells is someone from the outside world. He told me a lot about the outside world and the common level of strength there. Your strength is very low outside. If you dare to expose your identity after going out, I dare to say that a large group of people will swarm to kill you and divide your body into pieces. True dragons without strength are nothing but a huge treasure to them. Don't scare me. I'm not afraid." Armin stood up straight. He flung his tail around and flexed his muscles, trying to act mightly, but compared with the giant Shillong, he looked extremely cute and funny. "Do you know about the human world power division?" "I don't know. I don't care about those weak guys. I just want to earn treasures." "Earn treasures." Shillong looked at Armin's arrogant and lawless posture with a funny look on his face. "It's more like you are giving them treasures. Humans are greedy. If you fall into their hands while you're still a weak dragon, you will definitely die. They will suck your blood and dig your internal organs. Make them into potions and alchemy items. Peel your skin off to make armor. These things are priceless in the human world. Dig my internal organs? Suck my blood? Peel my skin?" Armin was frightened. He took a step back unconsciously. The cards in his hands also slowly fell onto the ground. He looked a little anxious. His moving tail showed his inner unease. "Are human beings such a cruel race? There is no such thing in my inherited memory. It's not human beings that are cruel, but the weak are generally treated so. No matter what race or creatures, as long as they are weak, they will be treated cruelly. Aren't we treating the beasts on this island as our prey? We usually don't even think twice before hunting, killing, and eating them. That's almost the same concept. That's different. These are beasts with low intelligence. We don't eat creatures with high intelligence. 5-color evil dragons do eat humans. 5-color dragons are evil dragons. They have no morals or dignity at all," Armin said. It can be seen from his voice and tone that he is full of disgust towards the 5-color evil dragon clan. All metal dragons have this cognition from their inherited memories the moment they are born. They all extremely hate the 5-color evil dragon clan. Aren't there evil people among human beings? Is there anything wrong with them hunting a weak and helpless dragon? Shillong laughed and said. Armin was silent, lost in thought. It took him a while before speaking again. "What you said makes sense, but the strength of our dragon race is far beyond what humans can match. I'm fearless. You are too arrogant." "Armin, human society has a strict division of strength, do you know? They divide the strength of sentient creatures into 20 levels, and true dragons, after reaching 40 years old, which the teenage phase, their strength is only about level 9. Just so you know, the humans that killed our younger siblings before are at least level 10, and humans of this level are not a minority in the human world. Jones informed Shillong about all of this before. To be precise, the middle-aged fighter that Viola killed before is a level 11 master fighter, and one that is extremely close to level 12. If Armin encounters people of this level, he can only survive by using his flight ability to escape. How is this possible? How can human beings be so strong? Armin did not believe it. These are all told to me by the human mage who is still on the island. If you don't believe it, you can also ask Mom. She has traveled to many continents and is very familiar with the human race. I will ask Mom myself. The two small dragons sat on the ground and continued to talk while playing cards. After a few hours, the sunshine has reached its peak. It's noon. Viola brought today's prey to the two dragons. After the family of three ate the food, Armin couldn't wait to ask her about human strength. Viola pondered for a moment and nodded, saying, Shillong is right. The strength of human beings cannot be underestimated. The reason why only 40-year-old dragons are allowed to travel alone is that they barely have the strength to protect themselves. I personally traveled to the mainland when I was in my 50s, but even then I didn't dare to act too high profile. I mostly used the transformation spell to mingle with humans. Some arrogant 5-color evil dragons are killed every few years due to their wanton and arrogant actions. This is a warning to us. Are human beings so powerful? Armin said in disbelief, still shocked that the lower race he used to look down upon turned out to be so strong. The strength of human beings is entirely dependent on their huge population. With such a huge population, many geniuses and talented people appear one after the other. They are the pillars of the human race, and one of the most important reasons why they are able to dominate such a large area of the main continent. However, you don't need to fret over my child. Part 2. No matter how talented these geniuses are, they are still incomparable to us, true dragons. They might be stronger than you for a short time, but as we continue to grow older, our strength continues to increase, eventually surpassing them. Viola looked confident and proud. Part 1. Chapter 22 ? Armin stared at his mother with wide eyes. Our dragon race is the most loved creation of the god of creation. Normally, our lifespan is about 3,000 to 4,000 years. As long as we survive and continue growing, we get legendary level power at age 400 to 600. Even if we do nothing but sleep, our power continues to grow with age. How can other creatures be comparable to us? After reaching 1,000 years old, even the legendary powerhouses of the human race can't be compared to us. Fret not, my child. Humans might be more powerful than you for a short time, but eventually, you'll surpass all of them in the end. Viola's expression was full of confidence. But are we going to be bullied by them when we are young? Armin still looked a bit depressed. It's still hard for him to believe that even after another 20 years, he won't be able to run wild in the human world. Everyone has a young, weak period. Short-lived species like humans might die as babies due to a change of weather, hunger, or simple disease. Dragons like us will only die in the hands of powerful enemies. After you become old enough and go out to travel in the human world, even if you meet an unbeatable enemy, you can still escape if you can't beat him. Only high-level mages among humans have the ability to fly, and their flight speed is far from comparable to ours, so you don't need to be afraid of them. Viola comforted Armin and shared her experience and encounters while still young. Yeah, Mom, what you said makes sense. I finally understand what you mean. Armin had a look of realization on his face. He finally recovered his previous cheerful expression. Do you understand now? If you want to travel to the outside world, wait until you grow up, Shillong said from the side, his expression calm and confident, like a wise old man. Don't mention you. Even I still don't want to go out for now, and my strength is miles better than yours. Since dragons like us can become stronger with age, why not wait until we are strong enough before going out? Why must we take the risk and go out in our weak period? If something wrong happens at that time, it will be too late to regret it. Armin listened to Shillong's serious teachings and fell deeply into his thoughts. After a long time, he raised his head and nodded earnestly. Shillong, what you said makes sense. I will wait until I am as strong as Mom before going out to the outside world. Viola looked at Armin speechlessly. In fact, if Armin can wait until his adulthood before going out, it will be great. At least she won't have to worry about his safety as much. However, this will be very difficult, even almost impossible. Dragons' desire for shiny gold coins and treasures continue to grow with age. Few dragons can restrain this desire, coupled with boredom and their innate arrogance. Few dragons can wait to their teenage years before leaving the nest. It's impossible to satisfy their desire for treasures with just the tiny amount of silver and gold coins they receive each time from their parents. Viola didn't elaborate on this matter. Anyway, it will be best to delay this matter as much as possible. However, there's one thing that needs to be done now. Armin, Shillong, now that both of you have become 20 years old, Mom is going to take you back to Dragon Island to meet and communicate with other dragons. Anyway, the time is not far away from Dragon's collective meeting. It's better to take you there now. After Viola finished speaking, she looked at the west with a look of remembrance on her face. How many years had she not been back to Long Island? Dragon Island is the common home of all the metal dragons. It's the gathering place of all the good-natured dragons. It's orderly, has rules, and all the dragons there has one deity as their faith. The kind dragon god Bahamut. It's all because of this that they can live harmoniously there. The system of metal dragons is naturally very different from the unorderly and chaotic five-color evil dragons. These guys don't even recognize their parents or siblings after leaving their nest. Dragon Island, Armin murmured with a look of excitement on his face. There must be a lot of his kinsmen there. He won't be bored and lonely if he goes there, right? In his inheritance memory, there are many good memories about Dragon Island, so Armin is yearning for that place. When will go? Shillong asked. If you have nothing to do, we can go now. Viola is feeling very homesick now. She doesn't want to delay her departure for a long time. Okay, then we'll go to Dragon Island now, Armin said excitedly. Shillong glanced at the area where the old mage Jones is and pondered for a moment. Wait for a moment, Mom. I will say goodbye to the human mage. After all, that guy also taught me spells and many other things. It would be rude not to say goodbye. Go, kid. Viola smiled and nodded in approval. Shillong nodded and jumped into the air. He instantly disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind a golden-red trail. Outside the cave where Jones is, Jones was sitting on the ground at this moment, closing his eyes and meditating. After hearing the sound barrier breaking outside, he instantly opened his eyes. Shillong's huge body slowly landed in front of his cave. Poochie, who was lazily lying on the ground, quickly hid behind Jones, peeking out from time to time outside. This big dragon outside caused Poochie to shiver every time he saw him. The devastating energy in the dragon's body is extremely dazzling in his perception. It seemed that it can explode with the slightest touch. Your Excellency Shillong, welcome. It has been a long time since you have come to my place. Do you need any help? Jones smiled and petted the frightened Poochie, trying to comfort him. I'm going to go to Dragon Island pretty soon. Dragon Island? I have read the classics about it. I heard that it's the kingdom of the Metal Dragon clan. It's richer than any other human kingdom in this world. Only those who are full of good intentions and have experienced many trials can go there, and each person who has landed on Dragon Island has become a winner in life and married a noble daughter later on. Jones stroked his goatee and recounted what he knows. Jones, if you want to, I can send you out of the island now. Out of this island? The hand that was stroking his beard froze. Jones looked astonished. This was something he dreamed about every day before. But is leaving this place really a good idea? Jones couldn't help thinking. If I go back to my original country, then I will be facing the pursuit of Earl Verrier. The power of the nobles should not be underestimated. Should I go to other countries? Right? Only after going to other countries can I start a new life. I can't die here yet. My ideals of pursuing magic cannot be broken here. This island limits his way of further studying magic. Jones's heart has been set ablaze, and a flame seemed to emerge in his hazel-brown pupils. I would like to thank you, Your Excellency Shillong, in advance. Jones raised his head and said with a determined look after thinking for a long time, I see. Then get ready. Take everything you need to take with you. We'll immediately set off, Shillong nodded and said. Afterwards, Jones returned to his cave, and after packing up his stuff, Shillong grabbed him with his huge claws and disappeared into the horizon. Before leaving, Shillong informed his mother about the previous affair, then left the island, leaving a golden-red, shiny trail behind. Shillong's speed is several times that of the speed of sound. With such speed, even if his claws protected Jones from the majority of the wind pressure, the remaining parts still caused a lot of troubles to Jones. These winds were like knives, cutting out a few wounds on Jones' old body. Only after using a protection spell did he finally let out a sigh of relief. The old mage Jones never thought that the flying speed of a creature could be so amazing. Through the cracks between Shillong's claws, he watched as the scenery outside changed like a stream of colorful streamers. There was no noise in his ears, and the world seemed to be still at that moment. The knowledgeable old mage knows that this is a supersonic speed. It's said that only after speed reaches the extreme can such scenery appear. Part 1. Chapter 23. After what seemed like a long time, Jones felt that Shillong had finally stopped. Still seeing the blue sea from the cracks between his claws, Jones asked curiously, Your Excellency Shillong, is there anything bothering you? No, Shillong replied. I saw something interesting. It's perfect as a farewell gift. After speaking, Shillong turned around and dived towards the sea. On the blue sea, A 30 to 40 meters long ship was slowly sailing on the ocean. Many people gathered near the bow. 5 burly men in wild clothes were standing on the bow, and 2 men were hanged on the sail poles. These 5 wildly dressed men are very different in terms of age. The oldest is more than 40 years old, and the youngest is only 20 years old. At this moment, these wild men were sitting on the ground without paying attention to their images. They looked at the 2 tied-up men with a disdainful and joking look while taking a sip from the ale in their hands from time to time. In front of them, the 2 men who were tied up were both middle-aged. Their clothes were already in tatters, with pieces of flesh, skin, and blood seeping from them. The 2 men hung their heads feebly. Their eyes were filled with despair and numbness. One of the wild men was hitting them hard with a whip, laughing with excitement every time he struck them. The rest of the men watched this scene with an interested look on their faces, just like watching a play. After a long time, the 2 men finally stopped responding, lying motionlessly on the ground dead. A young man watching the show looked a little unhappy. He said with a look of annoyance, "Huh, are these 2 guys already dead? No reaction at all? What an annoying job. The guys inside are playing with women, but we can only do such a boring thing here. Fuck, I want to play with women too. I want beautiful women. Where can you find beautiful women in the sea? Even if we find them, they can only be enjoyed by the captain and the other team leaders. Kid, you're still new to this industry, full of unreal fantasies," one of the oldest men said disdainfully. "TCH, why are we always listening to them? Every time a merchant ship is ransacked, the treasures and women are all taken by the team leaders. We don't get anything," the young man said angrily. He had an agitated look on his face. Snap! The middle-aged pirate sitting on the side slapped the young man's head. "Shut up, you bastard. It doesn't matter if it's just us who hear it. But if the people inside hear it, then you'll die. You'll even drag us with you." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he sneakily looked at the door of the cabin. The name of this pirate group is the Soria Pirates. They are the malignant tumors of this sea area. They are like hyenas on the sea. Their sense of smell is extremely sensitive. Each and every time, they manage to avoid the marine force of the nearby kingdoms and their peers, plundering just the weak and vulnerable. They have a very strict status class. The higher the strength and contribution, the higher the status. Only people of high status can enjoy the plundered beautiful women and treasures. And these 5 people on the bow are the ones with the lowest status in the entire pirate group. They are either the latest to join the pirate group, or have very low combat effectiveness and don't have the slightest talent. They're the lowest and scummiest bunch of all. After each plunder, they can't get any treasures. Even if they manage to get a woman, they can only share it between themselves, and they're mostly the ones that others finish playing with or the old or ugly ones. However, they can't get rid of this predicament. They are all villains who committed atrocious crimes in their original homeland. They can only protect themselves by joining the Soria Pirates. All of the people in this pirate group are villains. None of them are good people. They are eager to plunder, steal other people's hard work, take other people's wives and daughters, and kidnap and sell their children. They're the lowest of the low, some of the scummiest people in the world, and they are proud of it. "I know." The young pirate rubbed his swollen head and said with a frustrated look on his face, "I'm just a little unhappy. We do dirty work for them every day. Our only way of entertainment is torturing these 2 idiots. Look at them. They are already dead. When I was still living in my old hometown, I used to feast on beautiful and youthful 17 or 18 years old girls. TCH, where can these brats be compared to mature women? Let me tell you, in my days, I went to some of the most upscale brothels. The prostitutes there are not only beautiful and bumpy, but their techniques are also extremely good." The middle-aged pirate looked at the young pirate with contempt, then started recounting his old deeds with a look of nostalgia. The other pirates heard the conversation between the 2 and immediately joined, each telling about their own criminal experiences. Some raped and murdered, some betrayed, and some kidnapped. They were all forced to flee and became pirates due to different experiences. These heinous crimes that can make any normal person sick turned into accomplishment to be bragged about and to be proud of. While the 5 pirates were chatting vigorously, boom! Suddenly, a huge black shadow fell into the sea like a meteorite. The sea surface exploded, creating a lot of giant waves. The pirates chatting on board were shocked. Their entire ship shook heavily due to the shock waves, almost overturning. Several pirates suddenly collided with the ground. One hit the hull of the ship, cracking his head and causing him to become unconscious. One was thrown off the hull of the pirate ship. Another pirate flew into the air, then flew back onto the ground and broke his hand, wailing in pain. However, what appeared next caused the pirates to hold their cries. A tsunami, tens of meters high, rushed towards the hull. The few who were still awake tightly hugged and pulled on fixed objects on the ship. The man who broke his arm struggled to stand up, then tried to run towards the cabin. However, death arrived in the next moment. Boom! The huge tsunami collided heavily with their ship. The tsunami was like a hammer, destroying a part of the ship's hull and flushing a lot of the pirates that were holding things back into the sea. Crunch! The entire ship was almost overturned by the tsunami, and a lot of seawater poured into the hull through the cabin. After a while, the ship finally returned to, and a bearded pirate with water stains on his underwear rushed out. The bearded pirate's face was full of anger. As soon as he walked out of the cabin, he roared loudly. "Polly, Sith, you two bastards. What's going on here?" Captain Harry, a pirate who was firmly grasping the hull, spat out the water in his wanter and exclaimed. But before he could finish speaking, he spat out a mouthful of blood, his expression filled with pain. Spotting this pirate, Harry quickly ran over, grabbed his collar, and said fiercely, "Bitch, tell me what happened. If you don't explain clearly, I'll chop you up to feed the sharks." "We also don't know who," the pirate struggled to breathe while saying. Crack! After not getting the answer he wanted, Harry directly twisted the neck of the man, then started looking around, trying to see what happened. The team leaders and senior pirates also walked out of the cabin one after the other, either holding a machete or a musket in their hands, their faces full of anger. Part 1, Chapter 24. Which group of bastards dare to attack the Soria pirates? I will catch them all, whether it's men or women, and smash them into pieces, then hang them on the sail. The pirate captain roared loudly. He was wearing an army uniform. He obtained it by killing a Continental Army officer before escaping to the sea. Since then, this uniform has been regarded by him as a symbol of honor. All the pirates looked around, searching for the enemy. Each one of them was roaring and cursing, promising to slice the attacker into pieces. Splash! The sea surface suddenly broke open as a huge gold and black monster appeared on the sea surface. The noisy pirates abruptly shut up. Everyone was seemingly frozen. They looked at the huge monster blankly. The size of this monster is huge. It's almost as big as their warship. He stared at the pirates with his huge golden-black eyes, causing them to freeze. A large amount of seawater slid down from the monster's body. His huge claws grabbed the edge of their warship, causing it to tilt to the side. An inexplicable fear brewed in the heart of all pirates. The pirates suddenly reacted and screamed loudly, each scream louder than the last. Some even peed their pants. "Monster! It's a monster!" The pirates were terrified. Some fell powerlessly on the ground, frightened. Some became crazed. They used one hand to hold fixed objects in the ship in order to not fall, then used the gun in their other hand to crazily attack the monster. Pang! 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 The sound of gunfire sounded through the ship. The pirates kept attacking Shillong with their muskets. Clang! Clang! The bullets landed on the body of the monster, but it had no effect. As if hitting a steel wall, a series of sparks splashed around. The bullets didn't even leave a scratch on the monster's scales. "It won't work! Attack his eyes!" someone yelled. The pirates with guns changed their target and started firing again. The monster suddenly closed its eyes, causing the bullets to collide with its eyelids. Apart from some slight sparks, the bullets didn't do any damage at all. "It's useless! It's useless! This is a true monster, something that humans can't defeat at all." A pirate broke down and sat powerlessly on the ground after seeing that their muskets have no effect. "Damn monster! Get out of my ship!" The pirate captain roared loudly, his eyes full of wrath. He suddenly took an ominous black skull from his coat. The skull is very small, about the size of a baseball, but there is a weird black miasma surging out of it. "Monster, have a taste of magic." The pirate captain grinned. He isn't afraid of some random sea monster. He started to mutter some slurred notes from his mouth when he finished chanting, his spirit visibly wilted. He looked like a tired person that hasn't slept for a few days. Black energy that was invisible to the naked eye was dragged from the pirate captain into the skull. The skull's eyes flashed with red light, then slowly opened its mouth. A black arrow condensed in black mist suddenly shot toward Shillong, leaving a black trail behind. Boom! The black arrow landed right on Shillong's eyelid. Then, under the horrified gaze of the pirate captain, it turned into black smoke and dissipated, as if nothing happened. This is impossible," the pirate captain muttered to himself, seemingly unable to accept the reality. His bottom card and most powerful attack were actually useless. How is this possible? He used this spell to penetrate a 1-meter-thick steel wall before. It's far more powerful than his warship's cannon attacks. The monster looked at the horrified pirate captain and rubbed his eyelids slightly. "It's a bit itchy. What spell did you use just now, human?" "The monster is talking. The monster is talking," the pirate captain exclaimed. He has never heard or seen a talking monster before. "Shut up, trash. Don't call me a monster. My name is Shillong. Now answer the question I just asked." Shillong looked at the pirate captain with cold eyes and said, his voice was very deep and penetrating. The pirate captain said with a fearful look on his face, I don't know anything. I will give you whatever you want. Please let me go." "Didn't you understand my question?" What I hate the most is other people ignoring my questions. Damn you. Shillong slightly narrowed his eyes. He extended his claws and grabbed the frightened pirate captain, then lightly flexed his hands under the horrified sight of the pirate captain and the others. Crack! Before the pirate captain could even scream, he was crushed into meat paste. His bright red blood dripped along with Shillong's claws and back into the sea. The original blue sea was gradually dyed with red. Tell me, trash, who can sail? Shillong asked another question. His huge, shiny eyes scanned the entire eyes. The pirates that his eyes crossed trembled due to intense fear. Many collapsed onto the floor of the ship. Some fled by jumping into the sea, and some even started attacking Shillong again. Shillong pinched them to death one by one. Among the few still alive pirates, a middle-aged man shouted loudly, I can sail. Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Me too. I can sail too. Don't kill me. The remaining pirates screamed one after the other. Dozens of them claimed that they could sail. You bastards, are you fooling me? There are dozens of people who can set sail in a group of illiterate pirates. Silem's eyes flickered fiercely. I really know how to sail. They are all lying. All the pirates suddenly said, then started blaming and cursing each other, insisting that only they can sail. If it wasn't for Shillong watching them, they might even have started a fight. These pirates may have felt that only those who can sail will survive, so all of them insisted that they can do so, not budging at all. Shillong scanned one pirate after the other. They all heavily trembled due to fear under his sight, but they still insisted on saying that they can set sail. You scumbags, do you think that I won't be able to do anything if you keep lying? Shillong grinned, then opened his mouth and started chanting a spell. Lie detection technique. A circle of golden light visible to the naked eye spread around Shillong, engulfing all pirates in Shillong's eyes. The colors of these pirates have changed. Shillong felt like he was wearing a thermal night vision device. The pirates were divided into two colors, one red and one blue. This is a level 1 prophecy arcane spell that Jones taught him. Its role is very simple, which is to identify liars. The pirates enveloped in red are lying, and the ones enveloped in blue are telling the truth. Looking at the red pirate, Shillong stretched his paws and pinched them to death. Fear broke out again amongst the pirates. I don't want to die. You monster. Mom, Dad, save me. I was wrong. I won't do it again. A large group of people went crazy and attacked Shillong with their muskets, but more jumped off the ship. They would rather die in the sea than facing a monster like Shillong. Shillong squeezed at the pirates enveloped in red one after the other. Even if they jumped into the sea, he stretched his claws to catch, then pinched them into a paste. Their blood stained the sea and the hull. The shadow of death enveloped the pirate ship. Only 3 pirates enveloped in blue remained on the ship, shrinking into a corner and looking at Shillong in horror. Scum, your luck is good. You're still useful. You can keep your life for now. Shillong said indifferently. We aren't going to die. We won't die. The 3 pirates hugged each other and danced in joy. Tears and mucus fell from their face. Shillong sneered at this sight, then turned his head and said, Jones, come out. This is my parting gift for you. The old man named Jones, after hearing this sound, hugged Poochie and slowly floated from behind Shillong, then fell on this boat. Part 1. Chapter 25. Jones glanced at the trembling pirates on the ship, then back at Shillong, and said, Your Excellency, what is this? A gift for you, Shillong replied. This pirate ship should still have some value. There should be some valuable stuff in it like this. After speaking, Shillong spread his claws, revealing a small black skull. It's the thing the pirate captain used to cast spells. Do you know what's this? It feels a bit interesting, but you can still take it. It's filled with the magic of death, darkness, and withering. Jones slowly walked to Shillong's claws, picked the skull, and looked at it. It's a very powerful magic item. It should be a relic of the past era. Then I'll give it to you. Thank you, Sir Shillong. Jones bowed slightly and expressed his gratitude. Yeah, Shillong nodded. Didn't you say that you were wanted by some kingdom? With this ship, you can start a journey on the sea. It's relatively safe, but if you insist on going to other continents, there's no problem. I can take you there. Journey on the sea. Jones muttered to himself. This can be regarded as a safe plan. With a sturdy ship and a few crew members, it's indeed safe to cross the sea. Is this what I want? If I want to go back to my hometown, I have to cross other continents or take a long detour across the sea, but this will be even more dangerous. There are many monsters in the deep sea, and I have never been to other continents. The future is uncertain. Maybe I can slowly find the way back on the sea. Jones pondered for a while, before finally choosing to stay on this ship. An old human and a young dragon bid farewell to each other. Then each went his own way. After Jones watched Shillong fly away, he set his sights back on the 3 surviving pirates. The 3 pirates obviously released sighs of relief after the monster left, their expressions relaxed a lot. However, after seeing Jones looking at them, they became nervous again. Just now, they saw this old man floating in the air. He must be a mage. For these ordinary pirates, mages are still a very powerful and mysterious existence. That's without mentioning that the old man and the monster knew each other, making them even more afraid to have crooked thoughts. A pirate nervously approached the mage and said, "Master Mage, you can order us as you like. There are some beautiful women that used to belong to the leader before. They are yours to use." "How beauty?" Jones smiled disdainfully. "Do I look like a young man with energy to play with women?" "Oh, sir, although you don't look too young. I believe your golden gun hadn't rusted. A war with 10 women is nothing." The pirate rubbed his hands and said with an obscene look on his face, "Oomph." Jones snorted softly. He didn't want to talk anymore with these scumbags. "You, follow me into the cabin. The other two, start sailing the ship." Yes, yes, Master Mage, don't worry." The obscene pirate nodded repeatedly while bowing. The young pirate amongst the three left the two behind and followed Jones. From the beginning to the end, Jones didn't look at the two tied up. They died a long time ago. The glass in the cabin had been broken, falling to the ground in bits and pieces. There's a lot of water around it, obviously as a result of the tsunami. The ship also looked a little worn. The pirates took Jones straight to the largest and most luxurious room. It's well decorated, with many luxury items such as animal skins and carpets around, but they looked very messy due to the previous tsunami. Two beautiful women soaked in seawater, each with a soft blanket wrapped around their body, looked at Jones and the young pirate with fear. The young pirate looked at the two women lustfully, then turned his gaze to Jones and said, "Master, this is the room of our original leader. It's also the best place on the ship. It's yours now. This room is good. I will leave here alone in the future." Jones nodded. Then he looked at the two women and said, "You can leave now." When the two women heard Jones' words, their bodies started severely trembling. There was a horrified look on their face. "No, please don't drive us away. We don't want to be playthings for a group of lustful men, sir. We can serve you." "Huh." Jones frowned. The young pirate who had been observing Jones immediately looked at the women with rage and roared, "You two trashes. Didn't you hear what sir has said? Get out of this room, quickly. Otherwise, I will slice you into pieces." The two women trembled even more upon hearing this fierce roar. Tears slipped from the corner of their eyes. Shivering in fear, the two of them did not dare to speak. They could only stand up, still wrapped in a blanket, then walk out of the door while hanging their heads. Jones watched all of this in silence. Pashi, who had been lying on Jones' shoulders, suddenly said, "What will happen to these two women when they leave this room?" It had spoke. It's a speaking monster." The young pirate suddenly exclaimed upon hearing Pashi speak. He looked at the miniature dragon on Jones's shoulder with horror. He thought that it was just a pet before, but it can speak. What the hell is this? Why are all the monsters that I encountered today can speak? The two women also looked at Pashi with a surprised look. "You're the monster." "I'm Pashi, the spirit dragon Pashi." Pashi glared angrily at the young pirate, causing the latter to shudder. "Pashi, why are you asking? Are you interested in these two women?" Jones asked. "Yeah." Pashi nodded. Jumping from Jones's shoulders to his head, he continued, "I want two servants too. When you worked with that earl before, there were many people serving me. The previous 10 years on that isolated island were too uncomfortable. I'm thinking about it. I'm over 40. I have been with you for more than 20 years, and I have lived on that desert island for the majority of those 20 years. This is too sad." At the end, Pashi looked a bit sentimental. Jones was silent, then glanced at the pirate. "Relocate these two women to a room near me, and don't let anyone disturb them." Yes, sir." The pirate looked at Pashi cautiously, for fear that the small monster would suddenly rush to bite himself. And after saying this, he quickly took the two women and left. "If you want them to serve you, then you go convince them yourself," Jones said, then started rummaging the room, trying to see if there's anything valuable in this place. He found an iron box under the bed and found a key inside a wooden table leg. He used the wooden key to open the treasure box, only to find that it's full of gold coins, silver coins, and jewelry. This wealth is quite considerable. Jones estimated that this treasure box is worth at least 200 to 300 gold coins. Later, he found 2 muskets and a diary. The diary is the most hidden thing. Jones had to use a locating spell before he found it. After Jones found the diary, he started flipping through it. It records everything about the skull that Shillong gave him. The captain of this pirate group didn't know where the skull came from. A few years ago, he was just a middle-level member of the pirate ship. While he was sleeping in his room, the skull suddenly appeared next to him. Then he had a dream in which he possessed unparalleled power and could control darkness and death. With a casual wave of his hand, he could use darkness to kill thousands of people, then resurrect them as undead to fight for him. That power was so fascinating and addicting. In fact, he even remembered how to use it the next day when he woke up. Then he began to experiment with the magic in his dreams. The experiment was successful. After he successfully corroded a table according to the method he used in his dreams, he found that his body became very weak. Only after 3 days and nights did he recover. Since then, he became very cautious.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and give this video a like to stay updated on all the latest content. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to drop a comment.